Uh, Welcome everyone to episode 119 of the Looks Like a Movie podcast. My name's Kevin. I'm here with Doug. Another week where we are missing a member. No Owen. Hopefully, all three of us are back together finally next week. Although I don't know that.
No promises,
Yeah,
to be
I don't. I don't
honest.
know what's gonna happen. But this week we are talking about the maybe final Mission Impossible movie, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. But first, as always, we can talk about what we watched this past week. I can maybe take it away here. I watched a decent amount, although pretty much all of it was Mission Impossible catch up. I spent most of the week just trying to squeeze it. There's a moment there where I thought I wouldn't be able to catch up, and I watched Dead Reckoning and finished it an hour before my show time for the Final Reckoning. So I managed to get it all in. I'm not going to mention any of those movies because we'll talk about them in a minute. The only other stuff I really watched is a new movie, Friendship, that we possibly will be talking about next week, depending on how things go. So, similarly, don't want to give too much away about that. But probably, if you know anything about the movie, it is not crazy to say that it is really funny. And I've laughed the entire time. And I was a bit nervous because, that brand of humor is very me, but depending on like who walks into the theater, you don't know if people are going to laugh at like the Tim Robinson like sketch comedy kind of stuff. And so if someone just randomly like brought their parents along to see a comedy and they were like, "Yeah, you'll love it." And then they're just like, "What the fuck is this?" It's very possible, but seemingly everybody in my theater was having a good time. There's a joke like pretty early in the movie that is just like super weird, very on brand for him. And when that joke happened and like the whole theater kind of like everybody was just like laughing really hard, I was like, okay, this is going to be a good screening. And then everybody kind of laughed for the entire movie, so that was fun. I'm grateful for that. But uh as far as details about the movie go, we'll maybe save that for next week if we end up talking about it.
Yeah, we
uh
probably will.
yeah, well, it's
Yeah.
to spoil next week's episode. Next week is Friendship or Bring Her Back, and I do think we kind of have to talk about Bring Her Back. We talked about Talk to Me on this podcast when that came out. This is kind of a big deal in terms of like horror movies, like these rising directors, and so we probably will talk about it. But it seems like a week where we could talk about both. So Friendship will probably get mentioned. But the other movie I watched relates to the conversation we're going to have later on the pod. Not only are we talking about Mission Impossible this week, but we are talking about Cannes, the Cannes Film Festival that just ended. Uh, and
Big deal if you've
yes,
never heard of it.
big deal, this film festival. And so rather than our normal news segment, we're going to talk about Cannes. And because a director by the name of Jafar Panahi won the Palm at Cannes, I finally watched a movie of his. Although it's an interesting place to start with his movies. I feel like uh, maybe I probably should have thought that through a little bit
The only
more.
one that I had heard of, because listen, we're not like the greatest cinephiles in the world, but the only one that I had like really heard a about was No Bears
Oh,
before this.
really? I'm familiar with a few of these. I've had a couple of these on my watch list for a while. Taxi, I'm familiar with. No Bears, I'm familiar with. This Is Not a Film is the one that I watched. So those three I knew about. The rest I didn't know so much about. But This Is Not a Film I heard a lot about. I remember seeing a video about it like a long time ago. And that's the one that I watched yesterday. Really short movie if you want to check it out. Although warning people who might not have the attention span, it's not a short movie. It's a short movie in the sense that the length of the film is just barely over an hour. If you get bored easily, you might not have a fun time watching this one. But that is kind of partially the point. Like um, um, the movie is very in line with like this Iranian new wave of he's like inspired by Kiarostami, who I also am a little bit of a fan of. I still have a lot more movies of his to watch, but in general, I like Iranian cinema quite a bit. And this is very in line with that. It's like pretty much Jafar Panahi was sentenced to prison and also banned from making movies for 20 years. And so like while he's awaiting his sentencing, he's like in his apartment, like, and he gets his friend to show up with a camera, and like he describes the movie that he wants to make to his friend, and he's like describing scenes from the movie, and so the title, as you could tell, plays like a big role, but it's really interesting. I think if you're a listener of this podcast, you probably to some degree appreciate this movie. Like it's really good. And so that gets me interested in watching like any of his other stuff, because it's kind of a weird place to start. Obviously, like this movie about him making a movie where he doesn't really make the movie, and like, but then he ended up making this. And the story of the movie, I believe, is that he like what is it? He like smuggled it in a cake out of the country, and then like brought it to Cannes, and they
Yeah.
played it at Cannes. It's like um I could look up the details, but uh it's like crazy. How is This Is Not a Film brought to Cannes? It's like I remember, yeah, the film was smuggled from Iran to Cannes on a flash drive that uh was buried in a cake. So so it was a cake that was posted from Iran to Paris, and then he got the flash drive from there and brought it to Cannes, and it played the Cannes Film Festival. This is not his new movie that won the Palm. This is his 2011 movie that I watched in preparation for his Palm winner. But anyway, that's how my week went. What about you, Douglas?
So, since my last appearance on Looks Like a Movie, I which was like 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
I have seen basically every feature-length Charles Chaplin film.
Yeah. I almost watched, well, it's funny, when yesterday when I only had like a small window of time, and so I put together a list of short movies, and I ended up being between This Is Not a Film and watching a Charlie Chaplin movie, and I landed on This Is Not a Film just because of the Palm, but um
Yeah,
I'll watch them soon.
no, he's, like, really good. He's like
Nobody's ever said this
I
before, by the way.
I know, but it's like, I don't know, but he's, like, actually really good, you know
No,
what I
yeah.
mean? You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Like, yeah, like one of the
Um,
great, if not the great
yeah, it's like,
filmmaker.
these movies are really this isn't like a, like, "Oh, yeah, like, whatever." No, it's like, "No, no, no." These movies are, like, really woke and, like, full of empathy and
Yeah.
incredible, like, filmmaking. Um, yeah, all
Do
like
you have a favorite out of the ones you've watched?
yeah, so the Gold Rush, which is, um really early, is my favorite. It's his second feature and his last, like, actual silent film.
If I'm not mistaken, is that the one that just played at
Yeah, no,
Cannes?
that played at Cannes this year because there's a new 4K restoration that,
Interesting.
was just
Damn,
made
if only you got to see
that
it
played at Cannes.
at Cannes, that would have been
That would've been
nuts.
jolly, yeah.
Yeah.
But they're all really great. I mean, like, his most popular one is, like, Modern Times, which is amazing. City Lights, I think, is, like, generally regarded as his best movie. But even like the sound movies, like Monsieur Verdoux, a movie that nobody in real life really ever talks about. That movie's awesome, bro. And that's just like a
Yeah.
sound. That's just like it's him talking. There's like scenes. It's not even really it's not a slapstick comedy at all. It's just about like scenes where people talk. Uh, that movie's amazing. In that movie, in that movie, Kevin, Charlie Chaplin plays a serial killer, um, where he
And you're s
seduces women and then kills them to steal their money. Uh,
Okay. And this is
and
woke?
it is woke. It is woke because it's about the situation in which that
Mhm.
drove him there. Uh, the
Oh,
Great
okay.
Depression made him lose his job, and he couldn't. He worked at a bank, right? And then the Great Depression made him lose his job that he had for over a decade at a bank, and
Okay.
unable to get work to support his sick wife and child. He
Right.
resorted to killing women.
Yeah. I feel like there's probably a couple steps on the staircase down to becoming a
He's not
serial
a good
killer,
guy. He's not a good
Like,
guy.
it's like I feel like you probably test the waters on a few other job opportunities, or ways to make money before you settle on murdering people, but
but
I
it's
could see the appeal
yeah.
of the film, though. It's an
It's very
intriguing
good
story.
movie. Very, very good movie. Like, really there's a scene, it's, like, one of the best scenes ever, dude, where he's talking to this girl that he picks up on the street, uh, and he's going to test poison on her, this new poison that he's kind of crafted up, and he's gonna test this new poison on her. But then she is just so trusting and so smart, and she conjures so much empathy within him that he decides just to not kill her, and like she kind of like resets his life a little bit where he like
Mhm.
it's a whole thing. It's really good movie. um and then I watched well I watched somewhat many, but anyways I watched a bunch of shit. I also watched what's the Kingdom of Heaven. That movie's good.
Yeah. That's
I
all you
think
have to say. Didn't you give it? Oh, no, 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 never mind. Yeah, I thought you gave it 5 stars for a second, but you gave it 4 stars, right?
yeah, I gave it 4 stars,
Okay,
not a
yeah,
5 star movie.
yeah,
But I watched my first Kenji Mizoguchi film. Are you
okay.
familiar with Mizoguchi?
I don't know if I am by name. Perhaps when you tell me what the film is.
Ugetsu is his most
Okay,
popular film,
sure,
which
yeah.
uh he so he's a
Oh, okay,
pretty
and Sancho, right? Okay.
yeah, yeah. He's a pretty early like a Japanese filmmaker. He was making ever going by like generations, he's like the generation right before like Kurosawa. Um he was like they were making movies together at the end of Mizoguchi's life, but then Mizoguchi died and then Kurosawa started making his masterpieces.
I see.
Um but I watched Miss OU, which this is like I watched it with our friend Hardy.
Yeah, unsurprisingly.
And 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 this movie is so fucked up. It's about it's about this and you should watch it. It's a kind of
I'm
like maybe a masterpiece, but
I'm looking at it now. This looks good.
it's about this guy who falls in love with this girl, right? But then he marries her sister on the request of the woman being Misoyu. He marries her sister so that they could still be in her life. But then situations happen in which it sounds like, oh, that's a fine plan. It's a little sad, but it sounds like a fine plan on paper. But then situations happen which the entire situation explodes and it turns into an utter disaster and total tragedy. It's like the most fucked up movie ever, bro. It's so but it's like really incredible. I mean, it also
Yeah,
like not to be like I mean, Mizuguchi's mise en scène, I mean, it's like god
right.
level. So I watched that.
Yeah, I think I might watch this immediately. Oh,
Yeah,
my
no, you
cat
should
showed up.
you should it's really you should. It's also really short.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, no, this looks good.
yeah, and then last night with some of our friends, we watched The Conjuring, which I don't know if you've heard of that,
Ooh.
but that movie's good.
I actually, well, actually, I can't say that. I may have mentioned that movie on a podcast that is yet to come out, so I can't talk about it.
Oh, right, of course, I know. Yes, yes, yes.
um. Anyway, uh. Okay, nice. Well, then let's get into Mission Impossible because we've got a lot to talk about. I think our game plan here is to kind of quickly recap the franchise leading up to this final film. Just go through all the films. We don't need to get into
A little bit of
detail
table
because
setting. Yeah.
on all over the internet we have talked about and everybody has talked about these movies in detail. It seems like every time a new one comes out people are doing tons of discourse about each one, so we don't have to like get super specific, but we will go in order and just kind of run through our thoughts. Then we'll spend a bulk of the time on Final Reckoning before we kind of decide where it falls into the franchise. um, let's start with the first Mission Impossible. I think one of the movies that you and I both agree is one of the best. Not
Yes.
not a hot take from our perspective, although I guess depending on the type of Mission Impossible fan you are, could vary, which is also an interesting conversation to have. People's like the, you know what I mean? Like I feel like there's like different kinds of Mission Impossible fans in
Yeah,
terms of like
yeah.
what appeals to them because these movies vary so much. Obviously, they've had several different directors.
Yes.
Uh,
The first Mission Impossible, 1996, one of my favorite movies of all time. I feel like I'm
yeah,
pretty on the record about that. Really, 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 really love this movie like a lot. It's interesting because this movie is a really early example of like IP mining, where it's like we have the rights to this old TV show that we kind
Yeah.
of need to use, or we're going to lose the rights to it. And then the studio like approaches somebody like Brian De Palma, right? And it's like, do you want to make a spy movie? And he's like, sure. Then Brian De Palma and the studio approach Tom Cruise, and then they bring Tom Cruise in as a producer, kind of like to sweeten the deal. Very notable because this is the first movie Tom Cruise has produced, right?
Right.
Um, and then Brian De Palma then goes in and brings in David Kep, who we've talked about. We're all fans of David Kep here.
Yeah.
And then they make this movie, and it's really good. So the plot of the film is basically like Ethan Hunt is on a team. He's not the team leader. They're in Prague to do a mission. Everybody on Ethan's team dies, and then he is framed for their death. Uh, and that whole like that situation and that like high level like this is what the movie's about. That colors every other Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, that's something that I think is interesting is that like I saw somebody mention it. I forget what they were talking about, but someone I saw mention the fact that like almost every Mission Impossible movie, the plot of the movie is essentially like something happened to the IMF, like something went wrong, like there's like some kind of corruption and then they have to like fix things. And there's not actually that many movies where there's just like a mission where the mission isn't like uh them finding out that the IMF or whoever is corrupt and like they're,
we could this is a perfect transition. I don't know if you want to be done talking about this movie already, but this is a perfect transition to talk about MI2, in
which
which
is
that does
one of
not
the
happen.
movies where there is a mission. Yeah,
Yeah,
we can
there's
talk
no
about it in a
corruption.
second. We
It's
don't have to
the
like
it's the only mission movie where Ethan Hunt doesn't go rogue.
yeah.
Is Mission Impossible 2. Isn't that
This is
crazy?
that is yeah, it's true. I guess that's what I saw somebody saying about what the appeal of something like MI2 might be. Um the first movie, yeah, we don't really I feel like I've talked about it probably in general I've probably talked about it more than any Mission Impossible movie because so often like conversations you have about a franchise that has gotten to this point, like the fact especially that when you're watching this movie, it just works as like its own movie. Like you could picture this not turning into a franchise, but then it so much did, and so much of what people think about when they think about Mission Impossible is not the first movie. Like in the modern day and in modern conversations that I have, the way people talk about Mission Impossible is very much related to like the McQuarrie films and not
Yes.
what's happening here. Uh, and so this is like one of those ones where I feel like I talk about it the most because it's just like a lot of you forget that this is like the peak of filmmaking in this franchise, really. It's the only movie
Yeah.
directed by somebody as talented as Brian De Palma.
No,
Uh,
Brian De Palma, the best director to direct any of these movies, and
yeah.
I don't think I
I
I
mean, you
don't
would
think
say
you
it's
could.
close because of John Woo, I guess, right? But
No, I mean, John Woo, I love John Woo. We'll talk about it in a second, right? I love
yeah,
John Woo, but like John Woo's not one of my guys, I
sure.
guess. And there's
Yeah.
other
And
Hong
Brian De
Kong
Palma's
guys.
not one of my guys
Yeah.
either, but like but there's no denying the skill. And like when you watch this movie, you're like, yeah, I mean that's just the other Mission Impossible movies aren't like this.
Well, the thing about,
And
like, the first Mission Impossible movie is, like, that's a real fucking movie, you know?
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
it's a real movie. It's also I mean, everything about it is so iconic from, like, the look and feel and the casting, and it's so, like, if you were to write, like, a pretty detailed story, this is a terrible argument that I'm making, but if you were to write like a really detailed story of the history of cinema, you would be inclined, I feel like, to include the first Mission Impossible movie because of how like big of a deal it was and kind of coloring like like pop genre films in the 90s.
yeah.
Um
Yeah,
really awesome
no,
movie.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies in the franchise. We don't have to spend too much time on it
One of
because,
my
like you
favorite
said,
movies
we'll
of all
never finish.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then we get to MI2, like you said, uh, the John Woo.
John Woo. This one's notable because I mean, this one's notable for fucking a million reasons, but
Yeah.
uh
Notable because it is often regarded as the worst movie in the franchise.
it's yeah, so okay. Oh god, there's actually so much to talk about with this movie. So one of them is like Tom Cruise was the producer for this movie, like the first one. But unlike the first one where Brian De Palma was brought in before Tom Cruise was brought in as a producer, was like Mission Impossible 2, Tom Cruise was the one that wanted to make the sequel. He was the guy that initiated this.
Yeah.
He was like, "Let's make an MI2 sequel. We'll figure it out." Tom Cruise is on the phone with writers and directors trying to bring people on board and pitch them. Oliver Stone, who Tom Cruise worked with previously on
Born on the 4th of July, right?
yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
Born on the 4th of July. He was kind of the first director that was brought in, and he was supposed to be the director for MI2. And then stuff happens, and then the movie doesn't happen because Oliver Stone is a silly guy.
Yeah.
But that and then honestly, I've listened to a lot of interviews. It kind of feels like not begrudgingly, but it's like definitely not the kind of guy that Tom Cruise necessarily wanted initially. John Woo gets brought on, and John Woo was kind of like, I don't want to make a sequel to a Brian De Palma movie. That's like kind of what his gut reaction was. And then Tom Cruise says like, no, I don't want you to make it like Brian De Palma. I want you to make it like a John Woo movie, and that's kind of how he sells it to him. John Woo gets brought on. This movie is a John Woo movie, and it's very fun. I think that people that are like, this is obviously the worst movie in the franchise, they just would not like any Hong Kong director's movies that is produced in the States. Because they're all kind of like this a little
Yeah.
bit. Like you've seen, I mean, I have it's not here right now, but I have like the Double Team poster behind me all the
Yeah.
time. That's like and kind of in the same spirit, like universe as this
Yeah.
movie.
I've also seen other John Woo movies. Granted, the only other 2 I've seen are Silent Night, which we talked about, and, A Better Tomorrow. But A Better Tomorrow, very good movie.
A Better Tomorrow, a fucking excellent movie.
Yeah.
Better Tomorrow, like less silly in lots of ways than this movie, but it's also like
Sure.
again in the same spirit of this, right? Where it's
Yeah.
um
I I think my take on the people saying it's the worst, now having rewatched the franchise again, is that it's not. But it's still pretty close. I which
sure.
I think it's fine if you disagree. I think I've seen a lot of people disagree in ways that uh compel me, but when I watch the movie, I can't help but be like it's just like not what I want. It's cool. I think there are a couple things that are really cool about it. I've seen people reference it as like Tom Cruise in like a music video. It's like a feature length like music video, and I'm
Yeah.
like, it's pretty awesome. Like it's like he is just kind of like, and it's like they're kind of doing. You mentioned to me like the Notorious inspirations, the Hitchcock movie, and when I'm watching it, I'm like, there are scenes like directly out of like they go to
Just
the racetrack, and
ripped
I'm
out
just like,
yeah,
that's like
ripped out
literally in
Notorious.
Notorious,
Yeah.
yeah. But then also it's like kind of James Bondy and like the way he navigates the world, or it's like it's the only one where it feels kind of like you're watching a James Bond movie. He like meets a woman in the beginning, and like she's immediately attracted to him, and it's like this real like sexual tension that does not happen in uh the other Mission Impossible movies the same way. Like it's just something you expect in a James Bond movie instead. Like it's way more integral to like that character. Uh,
Yeah. It's the
and it's
most
fun. Like
different.
I think it's fun in this movie.
Yeah.
I was surprised because my biggest complaint about MI2 the last time I watched it was just that for a large chunk of the movie, it's just kind of really boring, which is a complaint that we're gonna get we're gonna get to for a more recent entry. But um but the last time I watched it, that's how I felt about MI2. And then rewatching it, I was like, it's actually kind of fun. I was like, I actually kind of because I think some of the stuff that I didn't like last time is just a little bit. I'm like, because I used to think that like the love interest here like just fell flat, and I was like, no, actually it's kind of nice. Like I kind of like them together. It's solid. And so still one of the worst movies for me. In fact, well, I don't want to say exactly what spot it's in because we'll talk about that later. But it's close to the bottom, but it is no longer the worst. So
This
you know,
movie also the details like this get lost to time a little bit. This movie was super, super, super successful. Like it
Yeah,
made a lot of money. And
yeah,
actually, this movie is part of the reason why like the summer blockbuster starts in June, or not June. Sorry. What are we? Memorial Weekend. How
right.
like Memorial Weekend is kind of like this is when the summer blockbuster season starts, is because this
Yeah,
movie came out Memorial Day weekend.
yeah.
Um,
Which Tom Cruise revived with Top Gun Maverick, which also came out Memorial Day weekend.
Yes. And this movie, like the soundtrack, super influential, kind of like paved like the way for like movies like that to like the tie-in soundtrack with the Limp Bizkit, and there's an original Limp Bizkit song and an original Metallica song, which are both like really, it was a big deal. I don't know. Again, details lost to time. But but then this movie's style is very influential because of how successful it was, also because like Bollywood movies still look like this, bro. Um
Yeah,
yeah. No, yeah, Bollywood movies still like this movie, like you can feel the influence of John Woo's Mission Impossible 2 on like Indian cinema still. Anyways, also last note on this before we move on, the movie, the most misogynistic in the franchise.
sure.
Um Lots of just like down the shirt shots of the what's her name? Uh,
Thandaway Newton.
yes. Lots of down the shirt shots of her. It's very ridiculous, but very good movie. I like this movie quite a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that brings us to MI3, the
3.
J.J. Abrams directed Mission Impossible movie, which exists in a similar way, generally speaking, where people will put it as the worst Mission Impossible movie, although it seems like the consensus for the average moviegoer is like MI2 at the bottom, MI3 is actually not as bad as you guys say.
Yeah, that's a lot of people feel that way. J.J. Abrams is a very popular artist, filmmaker. Um do you know what filmmaker was like Oliver Stone for MI2, or initially kind of like in very early production to make MI3?
I feel like I remember you mentioning this to me the last time we had a Mission Impossible conversation, but I don't remember who it is.
It is he would have been the biggest filmmaker to make any of these movies if the movie got off the ground. It was David Fincher. Was
Whoa,
Yeah,
right.
David
Okay.
Fincher was initially the guy supposed to make MI3. They were in really early production, and then when he dropped out, that's where so Benji, of course, Benji, legendary character, this is the first movie that Benji appears in
Yeah.
David Fincher's iteration of the film. Ricky Gervais was actually supposed to
Oh
play
god.
Benji. The part was being written for him specifically. uh yeah,
Interesting.
so
Yeah,
then
I really don't like Ricky Gervais, so
yeah, no, he's terrible, right?
so I'm happy that it went to a person who I find like one of the most likable people in Hollywood. Um,
Yeah, so but David Fincher drops out again. Tom Cruise producer. Tom Cruise hand selects JJ Abrams, somebody who had never made like a feature studio film before, because Tom Cruise liked Alias so much, the spy TV series that JJ Abrams was the showrunner on. And Tom Cruise wanted Mission Impossible. He wanted to kind of like course correct from MI2, and he wanted Mission
right.
Impossible to kind of feel like Alias. And JJ Abrams did that.
Yeah. He did. I don't disagree with most of your criticism about the fact that it looks like a TV show. It mostly does.
It's a lot of like
I
close-ups. It's a lot of like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
like a
there are
TV show.
which I saw somebody mention this, like, I forget if it was a tweet or a letterbox review that I read or something, but someone was like, "Leave it to J.J. Abrams to have, like, one of the great physical actors in Philip Seymour Hoffman and just have a close up of his face where you can't see any of his body." And it's like
Yeah.
Philip Seymour Hoffman just, like, unbelievable command of any room he's in, and you're just looking at his face the whole time rather than, like, like one of the great physical actors.
that's the other thing
But
that's notable about this is that Philip Seymour Hoffman is in this. Granted,
yes,
all of these movies have really incredible actors. In Mission Impossible
yeah,
2, Anthony Hopkins is in it for one scene.
yeah.
Um,
But
but
Philip Seymour Hoffman, arguably the best actor in the franchise,
Philip Seymour
at least
Hoffman, arguably the
the
best.
best actor ever.
Yeah,
But
like yeah, yes,
but,
yeah,
but you know, I
but
didn't want to disrespect people like Anthony Hopkins by just saying it very plainly. But
yeah,
uh,
uh, but Philip Seymour Hoffman in this movie, I think really my thesis is like the fact that Philip Seymour Hoffman is in this movie is why so many people regard this film so highly
absolutely,
because uh people like to say that Philip Seymour Hoffman's character is the best villain in this movie.
yeah.
He's not. He's actually not
I
even a
yeah.
particularly good villain.
This was my thing rewatching it too, where it's like I love Philip Seymour Hoffman. And rewatching it, I was like, I was shocked at how little they actually give him to work with. Like you got Philip
Yeah,
Seymour Hoffman in there, and you could have done so much more with him. As a character, there's no denying he's the best at acting as a villain. Like there,
yes.
nobody's
He's
gonna
the most
dispute that.
menacing because of his
But
screen presence.
yeah,
Yeah.
because he's Philip Seymour Hoffman. But the actual like character is no like if you gave Philip Seymour Hoffman the part of
The Solomon Lane
what's
character?
yeah,
The
Solomon Lane.
yes. Bro, dude,
Unbelievable
I know I think I
villain.
said this to Sophie, because Sophie hasn't seen any of them, and Sophie was like, "Oh, I kinda wanna watch, Mission 3 just for Philip Seymour Hoffman." And I was like, "Dude, if Philip Seymour Hoffman played Solomon Lane, Mission Impossible: Fallout would be the highest rated movie of all time on both
Yeah,
Letterboxd and IMDb. It would be number
yeah.
1
And that's
because
not even like to say that what's his name is a bad actor. He's not.
what is
Sean
his name?
Harris.
Yeah, Sean Harris.
Um
He's great.
but no, yeah, he's terrific, I think. Like I
Yeah.
really like but But it's just to say that, like, they are better at writing villains in this franchise, like, much better than when they wrote it in MI3. Like,
Because MI3
it's
is
just a lot of the
so.
movie just falls, like, really flat. I'm like, the villain, really not compelling as a
Also,
character.
I mean, spoilers, yeah, for MI3, but at the end, Philip Seymour Hoffman's character's death is so anticlimactic. It's
It
so
sucks.
anticlimactic. It's like
It
he
sucks
dies, and
so
then the movie
bad.
just moves on immediately. He also dies in like not a grand, like crazy way. He dies almost by accident, and then the movie just
Yeah,
immediately moves on. It's like
yeah.
what the fuck?
Which is weird because he's not like the, you know, the appeal of the character is like I guess this is maybe the setup for it, but it's like that the appeal of the character is like you know, like his strength is like his brain and not like his muscle, and so like a big like fight scene just wouldn't have totally made sense. But surely there's a better way to do it than that.
Yeah,
I
the
mean, you
big
had the perfect setup really because in the final scene, Tom Cruise is like you know, like collapsing, like he can't even like stand up. And so it's like, you know, the fight would have made sense if you wanted to just make it a better fight scene than like what it is. But that's, you know,
J.J. Abrams comes in with Mission Impossible 3. He writes a bunch of big questions,
and then doesn't
with no
answer any of
with no
them.
answers,
Yeah.
right? He's like, "Oh, there's like it's like the rabbit's foot," and Ethan's like, "What the fuck is the rabbit's foot?" And
Yeah.
everybody's like, "I don't know, don't worry about it,"
And it's like, okay.
right? And then also he does like I don't think it's like a sin, but it is like a really, really, really big decision, which is he has Ethan get married,
Yeah.
uh,
Which
which
I think this is actually one of I don't think it's one of the strong things about the movie, but I think it is strong as an idea in the franchise because I
right.
think it positively impacts the movies that follow it.
Yeah, well, that's yes. It gives him something. It gives Ethan a little
It's the
like
first
something.
yeah, the what people often regard it as is like this is the first movie in the franchise where like Ethan is like a character, like a real
Yeah,
like in the second movie it's like kind of what we were talking about where he's like a hot like music video star, and in the first movie he's not entirely a character either because that wasn't even franchise brained yet. And now this is like we're making him a character. The problem is the script is just kind of bad.
yeah,
Or like more reasons than one. You know, like people will tell you it's bad because of the rabbit's foot stuff not making sense. It's like actually all of it doesn't really make sense. And so that's the real
And then
issue.
also it looks like, a TV show from the 2000s, and
Yeah,
every shot is like a super close up of the actor's face.
yeah.
Um, Granted, one of my favorite moments in Mission Impossible though is the Shanghai running scene in
Yes, I
this.
really like that part.
That is
Yeah,
very amazing. That's very
yeah.
magical.
I agree. Let's
Yeah.
not spend too much time on shitting on it. Mission Impossible 4 is Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. This is the one directed by Brad Bird, who you
Yes.
may know best for directing movies like Ratatouille, The Incredibles, and The Iron Giant, notably all animated films.
Yes.
But then he directs the fourth Mission Impossible movie.
This movie is a very big deal. This movie
Yeah,
is a very, very big deal.
it
So Mission
has
Impossible 3 did not make as much money as Mission Impossible 2. Again,
right.
these are details that are lost to time. Mission Impossible 2 was like an incredible, like a huge success, and Mission Impossible 3 was like a minor failure at the box office. Um, it's funny. Anyways, it just goes to show how like shit like that does not matter, but people obsess about that with new movies.
Yeah,
But So Mission Impossible 4, very expensive movie. This is kind of the movie that like I want to say this is the first movie that kind of half steps into what becomes the modern Mission Impossible film, where it really becomes focused on these
yeah.
big stunts, like these really big stunts. And a lot of people say like the Burj Khalifa climbing stunt scene in this
Mhm.
movie is like the crown jewel centerpiece of all Mission
Yes,
Impossible movies. I
it's
think that
not.
it's not the best
It
stunts.
is by far the most iconic. This is
That
like the
Yeah, but that's
one
what I
that
was gonna
people
yeah.
think of.
Yes, it
Um,
is the most iconic one, though.
and I agree with your analysis, which is that it's like weird when you think about them in terms of like how you group the movies. It's like there are the first three movies that are all like their own individual things. There are the McQuarrie movies, and then there is this movie that is just like the bridge between
Yeah, it's
everything.
the bridge.
It's so clearly like feels that way. And this is like an interesting one for me because it's like I partly like have a lot of things I really appreciate about it. I also think it's like kind of like a bit overrated where it's like if you think this
I
is
think
like
it's
the
really
best Mission
overrated.
Impossible movie, like that's kind of a problem to me. Like
It's really good, and I think that Brad Bird, uh, is good at directing these set pieces,
yeah.
and I think there's a lot of fun ideas. Well, I mean, a lot of notable stuff about this. One of them is this is where the title sequence. This is the first movie that introduces
Yes.
the title sequence where they do the flashes to like what happens later in the movie, and
Yeah.
they
Which
do a
is so
full
fun.
yeah, and they do a full like everybody's names just popping up in the title sequence. I remember I listened to an interview with Brad Bird where they talked about making that decision, and they were like, "Why hasn't any of the other movies done it?" And somebody told him like, "Oh, because if you make like the opening credits too long, then like there's like a union requirement that like triggers something that." If it's like a certain length, then it's not just like the actors and directors you have to credit, but it's every single department head has to be in there. And Brad Bird is just like, fuck it, like let's just do it. Who cares? Let's do a whole
Yeah.
thing. And obviously awesome decision, sick, like
Yeah.
so sick that all of these movies do that.
Really pays off. Yeah.
Yeah. And you
Also
know,
got Jeremy Renner.
yes, Jeremy Renner, really notable. People say this a lot, I want to say, where it's like Jeremy Renner was supposed to replace Tom Cruise in the Mission series. I don't know if you've heard about this.
Yeah.
But it's like from what I've been able to gather, it's like the studio kind of wanted Tom Cruise, Tom Cruise as in like the Ethan Hunt character, to retire as an agent and kind of become like the Kittredge character, like the head of the
Right.
IMF at the end of this movie.
Which is funny because I don't know if you saw on the press for the new movie, Isai Morales on a red carpet was asked about the future of the franchise, and he was like, "I would want to see Tom Cruise become like the team leader and not like risk his life anymore."
Yeah.
uh, and which is like, I don't know that I want to see those movies, but
I mean,
Um,
it's like
but it
if you
seems like that's an
find
idea that exists and crosses multiple people's minds.
yeah, we'll talk about it. I would be okay with seeing those movies if they found somebody better than the fucking team that they got in Final
Sure, yeah,
Reckoning.
yeah, we'll talk about that
Like if it
soon.
was
But
Jeremy Renner, then like, yeah, at least Jeremy Renner
Jeremy
has a
Renner's
little bit of
cool. Yeah,
juice. Like,
yeah, he does. He's cool. He's.
yeah.
I mean, listen, he's in the MCU. The people. Well, I don't know that the people really care about Hawkeye. I guess, but
Did you
he's
see that
there.
Jeremy Renner like turned down returning in Hawkeye season 2 because
Really?
he wasn't getting paid he wasn't getting paid more in season 2 than he was in season 1. I think
Well,
it was like he wasn't getting paid more than Haley Steinfeld or something. Like
okay. Well, she's a more notable name at this point.
no, no, actually, no, I remember now. It was that he was getting paid less. It was like
Uh,
to get return in season 2, he would get paid less than he got paid in season 1. And like the quote was
okay. I
that
mean, that's fucked up.
like, "Oh, because he had this big injury, right?
Yeah.
Like this big like snowmobile accident." And he was like, "What? Just because I got injured doesn't mean I'm not the same old Jeremy." And then
Yeah.
he declined. Anyways,
That's that's
oh
kind of a funny quote, but I do kind of agree that that's a little bit fucked up if you
yeah.
try to bring him back for season 2 and pay him less. Anyway,
Anyways,
Ghost Protocol. Yeah, like you said, the Burj Khalifa scene, like probably the most just like well known culturally in the entire franchise. Like if you ask people who haven't even watched Mission Impossible movies, that's like their touchstone for the movies in their brain. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's like you said, there's a lot of cool stuff in the movie. I don't think Brad Bird is bad at directing it. It just for me is kind of like it in
the
the
movie's
sense
a
that
little
it
bit of a
bridged the
mess.
gap. It also is just like kind of in the middle where it's like
Yeah.
better than the bad. It's definitely a step above the bad movies, and it's definitely a step below the best ones.
I Brad Bird, not Brad Bird. Sorry, this movie also had rewrites. They were rewriting this movie on the fly. They were like shooting without a completed script. And this is where Christopher McQuarrie gets brought on. Christopher McQuarrie got brought on to basically finish writing the movie while they were shooting. And that's I don't think Christopher McQuarrie's credited on
Yeah.
officially as a writer, but he did do massive rewrites for the movie. And that's very well documented. And that's his
Huh.
first time working on the Mission movie. Um,
Nice.
yeah,
And then he makes it to our fifth movie, Rogue Nation,
yes.
which I don't know that the common consensus is this, but
Are we
ball
aligned on
knowers
this?
may argue that this is the best Mission Impossible movie.
Are we aligned on this? Do you think this is the best Mission movie?
I
You're
flip
still a,
flop.
are you still a Fallout truther? Like most Fallout's the most popular, like the most.
Sure, but here's my thing. We're gonna talk about Fallout in 2 seconds, so I don't want to like say I do think I have Fallout slightly above it, but I think I have reasons for like why. I don't know. It's weird because they're like different, but also
They are
that
different.
like they appeal to me for similar reasons. It is like to me, I've just kind of explained it as like this is the sweet spot of the franchise. Like Fallout and Rogue Nation back to back is like this is what Mission Impossible is about for me.
It's like they fucking struck magic lightning in a bottle. Like it's like they captured lightning in a golden bottle that created diamonds. Like
Yeah,
it was like it's like real magic from like
yeah,
top down. Everything is perfect. This team that they've landed on, like this is the first movie where they created a writers room. So it wasn't just like Christopher McQuarrie writing the screenplay. It was like there was a writers room full of a bunch of people like coming up with ideas, kind of like what they do with the Avatar movies now. And part of that writers' room was Simon Pegg, who plays Benji. Not only is he a character, but he's also like writing dialogue for the movie and stuff.
yeah.
Um, uh,
And you could tell could this movie has the best quotes in the franchise. Like this movie has like six moments where it is just like straight up like hype moments and aura. Like put it in a TikTok edit right now. Like and show it to me over and over again. Like it's like
yeah, this is
there are like three different lines in this movie where you're like that's the coolest thing anybody has ever said.
this is where like the iconic Alec Baldwin
Right.
speech.
Which also, and we're going to talk about Final Reckoning in a second, but it's like if you're going to spend an hour showing us scenes from the old movies, at least show us that one, right? I mean, like
Yeah,
at least have that again in the movie.
that
I don't know
so
if it's because of Alec Baldwin's like PR right now, but that's got to be in there.
they so the Burj Khalifa is the most I guess it is the most iconic scene, right? I guess like maybe
Yeah,
you could
I
argue
would say so.
the um the heist in the first movie is like maybe like
Well,
up there too, but the
you
Burj
might,
Khalifa is
yeah,
probably the most instant because it's so like visible. It's like, oh, he is climbing the Burj Khalifa, right?
yeah.
Like,
But I
um,
guess if you think about an image, you think about him like hanging from the. I don't
yeah.
know. That's tough, but
But my favorite single moment in the whole franchise is probably that Alec Baldwin speech because
I mean,
that is like
it's
peak hype moments in aura, bro. Where it's
yeah.
just
This is
like
yeah.
slow
It's
pushing
like
on Alec Baldwin being like he's a living incarnation of chaos, and it's like
yeah.
that shit
It's
rocks, bro.
it's
That shit's
so
so great.
good.
Alec Baldwin also incredible
Yeah,
actor, delivering that shit with so much sincerity.
yeah,
Um, uh,
yeah.
but like this
It's
is
so good,
the
and it also introduces the
Ilsa
best
Faust.
character in the
Yes, the
franchise.
best character in the franchise. Ilsa Faust, like knocked out of the park, fucking a million home runs casting with Rebecca
Yeah,
Ferguson,
yeah,
uh, who was like a TV actress that like turned into just turned into a movie star with this movie.
yeah.
Um, with
Pretty quickly too. I
yeah,
mean, she's had I like Dune has definitely helped, but like she just like just out of nowhere in like a decade became like such a big deal. I remember like Doctor Sleep came out too, and like people talked about her a lot in that.
she's like
Um,
borderline an A-list actress now. She just needs to like be a
yeah, she
lead.
yeah. I think she's like in in like the greater like cultural sense, I think she's like known very well as a person, but in terms of, I don't know that she'll ever like cross into like, it depends how we're defining A-list, but if we're defining A-list as like the real like these are people who can carry a movie, like I don't think she's ever going to get there, but she's like the she's in that margin of like the highest tier of B-list
Right.
before you get to A list. Because yeah, I don't know. I saw this is like so off topic, but I saw this TikTok of this British podcaster or like radio host or something, and it was like two of them, and this woman like the guy is like asking her. Like he's naming a bunch of actors, and she's saying whether or not they're A list or B list, and her criteria was like I don't know much about this person. I saw someone like comment on some other thing she like said or did where I was like, okay, she might not I might not listen to this radio show myself, but in terms of her takes on like the popularity of actors and like her logic, I was like, wow, she is nailing this. And like people in the comments were so upset. They were like, that person is B list. It was like Glenn Powell and she said B list or something. And but her logic was so sound where it was like she was picking so few people to like actually say or like A-list actors could like carry a movie, and
Right.
she was shooting down a bunch of other popular people, and then she had this category that I thought was interesting of like legacy actors where like they brought up they're like Al Pacino, and she was like, I mean, he's A-list like legacy, like it's like Al Pacino's not leading a movie in 2025, but he's Al Pacino, you know, like you're not going to say he's a B-list actor. And I thought like her logic was so sound where I was like that like I think too often people refer to like somebody who is just like popular because we watch movies a lot as an A-list actor. And I'm like, you know, I think if I asked 20 of my friends who Rebecca Ferguson is, none of them would know by name,
Yeah.
you know?
No. Yeah.
But she is like in the greater Hollywood sense, like pretty close to A-list now.
And
She's a big
she's
deal. And talent
also
wise, she's an
has
A-list
the
actor.
fucking juice, bro.
Yeah.
She's the
Yeah.
fucking
Talent
goat.
wise, she's unbelievable.
She's the fucking goat. She's the goat. She kind of
Yeah.
like single-handedly like again, this is what I mean when I like Rogue Nation that captured lightning in a bottle because
Yeah.
she puts so much, I mean, bro, so much juice. She pumps so much fucking juice into this movie, dude.
Yeah.
It's like sexy and there's so much charisma and there's oh my god, it's so good. The whole like intro opera scene, probably like my second favorite set piece, maybe my favorite. It's like up there in the whole series. Yeah, this movie rocks. This movie
Yeah.
introduces the villain of Solomon Lane, which is also important because he is a big deal.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that's probably where they struck gold in terms of like the villain stuff as well. It's like it's cool that it's also like a spy movie, like similarly to the first movie. Like that's I kind of described it as like the perfect like what I said was like it's like the perfect union of like all the things I like about Mission Impossible, where it has like the best things about the Christopher McQuarrie movies, but then also has like it's like a little bit of spy movie, which is why the first movie is so good. It's like like I do think that The people will debate the AI villain like crazy, the entity. And I don't think that it is like the weakest idea on paper, but I think the strongest idea is easily this one, like the syndicate and Solomon Lane specifically. I'm like, this is really where they hit their peak of like conflict and a villain and all of that stuff. Like it's the most compelling by far.
And I think the villain gets better. This villain gets better in Fallout's
Yes,
MI6.
agreed. Agreed.
Um,
Yeah, the sixth
because
movie and the most well liked.
the most well like I mean, this movie is really like up there, talked about culturally up there with not only like Mad Max Fury Road, but
Yeah,
also like The Dark Knight.
yeah.
Like people go, yeah, yeah. In terms of like how would I put this? Because I don't want to be rude here, and I don't want to use like disparaging language, but I feel like I might come across like that when I describe this. It's like when you talk about like a film bro canon, which I feel like that's like a rude way to put it, but you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like
But
like
everybody kinda gets the idea.
yeah, it's like this is like really part of that where it's like
Yeah.
really technically well made movie that fucking everybody loves and like kind
Yeah.
of talks
And it's
about like
also, I don't think, disparaging in the sense that, like, there are movies that fall into this canon that we love, including this one.
including this movie.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Um,
and so it's not like we're saying, obviously there's like, it sounds like there's a negative connotation that comes with that, but it's also like
but there's
when
like
it
a
comes to
very
well-liked movies, this is one of the ones that is most deserving of that
yeah.
label.
It's somebody
Uh,
with, like, generally pretty broad taste that, like, likes a lot of, popular movies, right, usually. They think that this is the greatest movie of all time, and it is one of the greatest movies of all time.
it
It's
is awesome.
yeah,
This is so what I would say, and we don't, again, this is like the one movie where we probably don't have to talk about it because like you might literally have not seen any of the other Mission Impossible movies and still have seen this one if you're just a person living in 2025. Um, it is kind of similar to Rogue Nation for me in the sense that it has all
it's,
of
like,
it has like all
basically
of the
Rogue
things
Nation
that,
2.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
all of the things that I find appealing about the franchise. And then in rewatching it, I want it to be like Rogue Nation is the best one. But then there are just moments in Fallout where I'm like, this is like this is just like it for me. Like especially like the climax and the, like when, and this is again the best thing that MI3 could have ever possibly done is make Ethan Hunt a character, because when his wife shows back up at the end of Fallout, that is like the, for me when it comes to Rogue Nation versus Fallout, that is the difference. Is that like he sees his wife and she's like okay, and then she is threatened and participating, and like when she goes to like cut the wires with Luther, and that like everybody is, I'm like, this is the epitome of like what the team is in Mission Impossible, is like these three people and Ethan Hunt's wife, who he has like an undying love for and like fuels, really like, it's like she's like kind of his only reason to keep going for the entire back half of the franchise. And so like the way that all of that comes together, I'm like, this is that's like the cherry on top for me. The whole movie's great, but that is like what makes it, I think, the best one, is like just the whole last whatever 30-45 minutes of the movie. Like that's perfect. Like that's like a perfect movie.
Yeah, the villain in this, like, this is
Yeah.
really where, the syndicate, like, the idea of the syndicate becomes, like, scary and, like, threatening because
Right.
like, more so than the entity said they say a lot of stuff about the entity, right? But, like, in Fallout specifically, they show you how the syndicate is threatening because it's like, "Oh, yeah, you actually cannot like, the people that we do trust or that we have an idea of, they've infiltrated them, and you have no idea what the fuck's going on now." Like,
Yeah.
again, one of my favorite scenes in any Mission Impossible movie in the whole franchise is the quadruple cross, like, towards the end of Fallout, where they're
Right.
all in the underground, like, shelter area, and it's like everybody's coming in, and it's like, "Oh, no, actually, like, double cross, then double cross, and then double
Yeah.
cross," and it's like, "Holy shit." That shit is so fucking cool. Um,
I'll also mention this is probably the height of a person whose name we have not mentioned yet, and my personal favorite character in the franchise, played by Ving Rhames.
Yes,
This
Luther.
is where Luther is like at his best. Like this is like as a friend to Ethan, because that's like notable is that he's Ethan's best friend really for the entire franchise.
And he's in every
Um,
movie.
and he's in every movie,
Yes.
and also like just as like comedic relief in the franchise, and really just like that's what I mean. Where like this movie blends everything. Where it has like the sentiments of like a spy movie. It has like the crazy stunts. It is also like as funny as a Mission Impossible movie could be, but like also still has Rebecca Ferguson, so it's simultaneously kind of as sexy as a Mission Impossible movie could be. Like it has like everything that makes the franchise good in one movie, and that is why like again like Ving Rhames ties it together so well. Also like we can't talk about the whole franchise without mentioning how good he is. Um,
Yeah,
but
no,
then we
Ving Rhames
get
is great.
to Dead Reckoning, which is the first
Yes.
part of a two part, sort of the first part of a two parter that
Yeah.
becomes the final reckoning, which is the what the bulk of this conversation will be. But Dead Reckoning, I feel like you like more than most people, although I guess for me it falls in a similar space. Uh, like when you're stacking it up against the franchise, I don't know.
Yeah, I like this movie like really a lot. Like I think
Yeah,
this movie is fucking incredible for so many reasons. I think that like the intrigue, the actual like the narrative intrigue is like palpable, and it's like wow, like I'm so interested in what the fuck is going on. Especially like
yeah,
this is really where like the entity works for me in this movie so much because you have
yeah,
Kittredge looking at Ethan Hunt, and they're talking about how like whoever controls the entity controls the truth, and like that kind of like line of dialogue, it's like man, that's like real life, dude. That is
yeah,
like real life. That is like
yeah.
this is where
If
like the AI
only
shit really
that was
works for me.
explored at all in our next
No,
movie.
yeah, no, literally.
Um,
Um,
no, I agree. I think this is like that's what when I hinted at it before, where I was like, you could debate like the entity. I'm like, the entity is good in this movie. Like it's just like
it
this
is.
is a good, compelling villain, and until it's not. Um, but I know, yeah. I mean, this movie I don't think it's much short of the other movies I just described, Rogue Nation and Fallout. Like I do think it's like a step below those two, but in terms of like combined like blending all of the elements that make Mission Impossible successful, I think it's pretty much on the same level where it's like it has the stunts and it's funny and it has all of the like all of the little like the team and the characters that you like a lot, although it's notably missing a really important character. Not missing, I shouldn't say, but eventually
Yeah. No, in this movie,
missing.
Ilsa Faust dies in this movie.
Yeah,
Right. And my understanding, granted, I haven't done as much research on the latter half of this movie as I have on the front half. But my understanding is like Rebecca Ferguson just kind of wanted out, dude.
yeah,
Rebecca Ferguson was just like, this is an oversimplification of what happened. But Rebecca Ferguson was like, these movies take way too fucking long to make, and I need to
yeah,
go do other stuff with my career, which I think is valid. But then also,
sure.
it's like, man, you got you. This is like, you guys couldn't solve this problem a little bit better.
Yeah, you guys couldn't solve it for one more movie, you know? Even if she were to die in the final reckoning, then that would be uh appreciated a little bit more because it would have fixed a lot of the problems with the final reckoning. But
I just think it's
uh
weird how in Dead Reckoning, because I always was watching Dead Reckoning with the understanding in my head where it's like Ilsa's probably going to come back in some way, even if it's not back to life, in some way in Dead Reckoning, right?
yeah,
Um, spoilers, she doesn't.
yeah. And
But like,
final reckoning, you
and
mean.
sorry, in final, Jesus Christ, these fucking
Yeah.
names in Final Reckoning, right? But because in Dead Reckoning, there's this incredible like Lawrence of Arabia, fucking like Spec Ops: The Line, like
Yeah.
shootout where Ethan has to go find Ilsa to get this key,
Yeah.
this mysterious key that we don't know anything about, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, we know about it, but it's like there's so much aura in this key that I think is also lost in fucking the Final Reckoning. But
Yeah.
yeah, he has to go find
We're getting
Ilsa.
too much into just like shitting on the final reckoning before we've even revealed that we're gonna shit on the final reckoning.
But he has to go find Ilsa, right? And there's this cop out where it's like we think that Ilsa dies, and we kind of think that Ilsa dies for a little while, and then it cuts back, and it's like no, Ethan saved Ilsa just for Ilsa to die again,
Yeah.
like a
But
half
I
hour
didn't even
later.
hate her death scene. I just wish it didn't happen. the
I just
scene
I don't
the
hate it
scene
either. It's
itself,
just a
I think,
little
is pretty good. Like, it
yeah.
has a good, like, piece of, like, action filmmaking attached to it where, like, the fight is just, like, actually good, and,
I think it's a big, like, emotional beat too,
yeah.
and I think the
Yeah,
fact that it's Ilsa kind of, like, sacrificing herself to save Grace in a way is
right.
also, like, a lot of it works. A lot of it works.
Which is why if these 2 movies were combined into one, like I said, and she just were to die at some point in the larger movie here, or in
Yeah.
this case, since they're split up, if she were to die in Final Reckoning, I'd be like, that works completely. Not what happened. But yeah, Dead Reckoning is really cool. I don't know if you want to say anything else or if you're ready to jump into Final Reckoning since
Yeah,
we're
we do
already
need
kind
to
of
jump into
teasing
Final Reckoning.
so
I
much.
will just say, like, Dead Reckoning is fuck, what's his name? Fuck. Dead Reckoning is composed. I don't want to be disrespectful and not get his name right. Um,
Oh,
composer. Dead Reckoning is
Lauren
composed,
Balfe.
yeah, by Lauren Balfe. Really, really, really good composer. I think that he did Fallout and he did Rogue Nation, Fallout, and Dead Reckoning. Um, really, really no, he didn't. He just did Fallout and Dead Reckoning, actually. But anyway, really awesome. I think the Dead Reckoning score is really amazing. And that's notable because he did not do s- Final
Yes, he did
Reckoning. He
not.
did not do
Yeah,
Final
Final
Reckoning.
Reckoning. I'll also throw in just as like a little detail that might come up in our conversation later. Dead Reckoning has the Vanessa Kirby character who is not found in the Final Reckoning. Just another
But
detail. That,
apparently they shot scenes with her for the
yes.
Final Reckoning that just aren't
Yeah.
in the fucking movie. Um,
Very strange. Let's talk about
we're all over the place, but we can
Mission
only talk
Impossible.
about so
No, I
much.
mean, yeah, we got through all the movies though.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning because, as you may have guessed from the especially end of this conversation, we don't like this movie as much
As
as some
much
other people. We still like it.
we both like this movie. I'm gonna go out and
Yeah,
say it. I like this movie a lot. I like the movie a
sure.
lot.
Yeah,
And here's
same.
my thing. Let's fucking talk about. I hate the internet. I
Yeah,
Ethan Hunt in this movie says you spend too much time on the internet. You guys do spend. I spend too much time on the internet, and so do you guys.
yeah,
I hate the internet because why is it that whenever a movie that people are excited about comes out, like a new Mission Impossible movie, right? Uh, that the movie has to start at the baseline 5 stars, like 100% masterpiece, and
yeah,
then we work our way down from there. And if
yeah,
anybody works their way down below where you are, they're a hater. I like this movie, right? Just
yeah.
because, like, I don't like it as much as what I like. Same thing
Yeah, I
with
know, I
like,
agree. I think that's like that's like one of those things where for me ratings have become incredibly arbitrary because like the other day I was sitting there thinking I forgot what movie I was watching, but I was watching some movie where I was like, I really just at this point give so many movies like super high scores, like I'm pretty much just slapping a 4 and a 4.5 on almost anything I watch. And so then when I watched Mission Impossible, I like this new movie, I defaulted to a 4. And then after thinking about it so much and thinking about the things I don't like, I lowered it to a 3.5 because this movie just has too many problems. And I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, wow, I really don't even give enough movies a 3.5. And then in my head, I was like, whatever, dude. Like it's like that's
yeah,
the conclusion
whatever.
I always come to, where it's like I really wish there was a way to present this to people on the internet that where everybody could kind of understand it. But the problem is, like you said, is that like it is the numbers and they mean too much to us. And I wish somebody could just see the 3.5 and be like, this guy might really like that movie, but also thinks that there are some big issues with it. But instead, they're like, you gave this the same rating as that, and then it becomes a problem, and it's like a slippery slope. But anyway, so it's the supposed end of the franchise. It
Yeah.
should be the end of the franchise, although we'll see what happens, obviously. But uh, I guess where we start is with the good because we're gonna really rip into the bad, probably. Wouldn't you agree? I feel like there's just more to complain about than there is to acknowledge as like good because the good is pretty universal.
Yeah, and there is a lot to bitch about, and we will be doing a lot of bitching.
Yeah.
But
So let's get the good out of the way because and let's just say this up front because I just don't think there's another way to have this conversation. If you have not watched The Final Reckoning yet, do not listen to this. We're just gonna spoil it, and we don't. I don't want to dance around spoilers. I think we just need to talk about it, spoilers and all, because of how much we're gonna complain. So if you don't care, keep listening. If you haven't watched the movie and you want to, then tune out of this part and then skip ahead. But uh, the two big goods that I think you and I and everybody in the world can agree on are two big action set pieces found towards the end of the movie that
Well,
I
one of them happens kind of like in the middle of the movie.
sure
Um,
they're just like really long.
yeah.
And by the end I mean that it feels like the end because you've spent so much time getting there. Um but yeah, they're but they're kind of back to back. There's really like it's like one and then there's like not that much that happens before we get to the next big one. It's just like a little more
Other
setup.
than like
But
a bunch of fucking exposition
yeah,
nonsense.
sure, yeah. But
Um,
anyway, these two big action set pieces, one of which I've just kind of referred to as like the abyss piece
yeah, the
because it just
abyss
feels like the
and
abyss.
the
And then the other one is the
biplane.
biplane,
Yeah.
which people have seen over and over again in the trailer, although the trailers do not reveal just how fucking insane it is.
Yeah, the
Um,
biplane, that's like the big crazy stunts that's like dangerous that the
yes,
movie's marketing on.
yes,
Similar to in Dead Reckoning, it was him riding the motorcycle off the mountain
right,
was like the
yeah,
big stunt that they were marketing on. Uh
yeah. And well, the marketing works because this movie might be the most successful in the franchise, but uh
Crazy.
yeah, but so those two. Let's talk about the abyss part first because it happens earlier in the movie. Uh, kind of one of the best scenes, if not like you could argue even just the best scene in the entire franchise. Like that's how good these two parts of the movie are.
I am willing to I am willing without having rewatching all of the movies after seeing the movie. I'm willing to stand up and say like it probably is the best sequence in the whole franchise.
Yeah,
Which is
there
that's
are
like
so much.
yeah.
Like there's so much in it where I'm like, this is nuts. Like the cutting to the actual submarine like about to collapse into the deep sea. Awesome. I mean, I like it's just like from my perspective, because there's like some stuff, and this is another like I'm just tying this in as another positive. This movie like leans a little bit more into like at times like almost bordering on horror movie than
Mhm.
any other Mission Impossible movie, where there are not only like scenes that are like semi jump scares, but then there's also like moments of graphic violence that just don't compare to any violence in the other movies.
Yeah.
Like they really go for it. And that is like a lot of that is in this abyss part where it's like everybody's pretty scared of the middle of nowhere in the ocean. Like it's a pretty easy way to
Yes,
skip. And
it's
so when they
fucking
cut the
scary.
submarine falling off the side of an underwater cliff, you're like, I mean, this is like my
Or
hands were sweating during this. Like I was like drenched during this scene. It's so
dude,
intense.
even like when he just gets out of the submarine and he turns around or like the camera kind of like pans
Oh, and
around
then
him
yeah,
and there's just like a big fucking submarine right there. I'm sitting in the theater going, "Holy shit." Like
yeah,
that's
it's
fucking
so scary. And
crazy.
then, like, and even in when he's still in the submarine, it's scary because the parts there's like I think really one of the best little sections of this is like when he's in there and the missiles are all like falling around him while the water is like rock and he's like underwater, like going through the missiles. Like that stuff is so cool. Like, like this is like it's so good. It's crazy.
It is an insane it is, like, actually an insanely ambitious, like, sequence
Yeah,
for so many reasons. One of them being, like, the actual practical stunt of it all is, like, he's actually just, like, in the water, and they have
yeah.
to build these, like, really complicated fucking sets and fill them with, like, half with water while he's in this ridiculous do you know about the suit that he's wearing?
Yeah.
Because he's actually scuba diving, right? That's obviously not a real fucking scuba diving suit though,
Yeah.
because like when you do like go down, there's like a whole thing covering your face and
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
stuck in your mouth. What Tom Cruise said in an interview basically was like, yeah, we don't want to do that because it covers the face, and like without the face, you like you lose emotion. So like built like a new fucking like scuba suit just for
Mhm.
the movie, where it's like a glass and a
Right, so
glass
you
thing
could see his
to see
whole
his
face.
face. But the
Yeah.
problem with that is there's no way to get rid of the fucking carbon dioxide when you exhale. So he's just wearing this thing, breathing in his own carbon dioxide as like when he's in there. So he's like getting
He's so crazy, like, it's so insane, and then he gets fucking naked during this scene too, just
locked.
completely
He's
naked,
naked
which,
for
like,
half of this movie.
the world logic and we're gonna, like, pick apart, like, some, stupid, like, plot hole stuff. I don't actually care about this one, but it is funny to think, like, it's just there's no way this makes sense, like, he's, like, in the middle of, like, a freezing cold ocean, like, hundreds of feet underwater, and he's just, like, ass naked, like well, like, with the exception of, like, his underwear, but, just completely naked and then rises up to like literal like icebergs and it's like dude you're dead. I think you die. I don't know that any human body could withstand that. um,
No,
but
but
but it does make it more fun to watch.
he is Jesus though.
Yeah, no, that is true. That it's worth noting.
Yeah, no, this
That scene
shit
is so good.
is crazy. The best
And
scene,
then yeah,
yeah.
and then the biplane is maybe not as like visually striking, although it kind of is, but as a stunt, just the
Unbelievable.
coordination on display is like I how do you even because literally the only thing I could think, and this is like a movie thing as opposed to like a person who likes watching blockbuster movies, like an average movie. But I'm like, how do you film that? Like it's like
Yeah,
I'm
I
like
have no
sitting there in the
idea.
theater watching it, and I'm like, how do you make this? Like who did this?
No,
Like,
that's like this like biplane sequence is real like movie magic in the sense where I'm like, I don't know what
and
the
I
fuck
kind of
they
don't even
did.
want to know.
I
I
don't
like
know how they did it.
Like, I don't even wanna see a behind the scenes. I'm just like, yeah, that's what happened there was that they did magic. Like,
I'm
they literally
assuming like
it's crazy.
I feel so like when there has to be another pilot in there, right? So I'm assuming like they
Yes,
digitally remove the second pilot
the
that's on the
pilot.
biplane,
Yeah,
right? That's like the only that's like part of it.
yeah,
That's only one piece of this. But it's like part of where I'm like, that has to be part of what they did. Because it looks so fucking crazy. It looks so
yeah.
crazy. Um Especially like knowing that they're actually in the air. Because like if this was another movie and they had the idea for this set piece, it would be done on green screen and it would still be cool. But like
Yeah,
knowing that they're in the air makes it so like, how the fuck did they do
yeah.
this? Like,
And
what
the
the
location that they're at, like, the actual physical location is, like, breathtaking, like,
yeah.
nuts, like
They're in like
and so
northern South Africa.
yeah,
Like,
and so it makes it look even cooler.
yeah.
It's like so much about this is just like hard to believe. And then not to mention like there, I mean the fighting in the air, the going upside down, like it's like
No,
it
it's crazy.
it's
Have you
so
seen
nuts.
oh, you haven't. You haven't seen The Great Dictator, a Charlie
I've not
Chaplin movie.
know.
But
I'd like
this
to.
biplane sequence, there's a it reminds me of early in The Great Dictator where there's a scene where they're in a plane just like this because these are old ass planes and Charlie Chaplin is hanging on to the stick like the plane's flying upside down and
I
he's
think
just
I've seen
holding
this
onto the
before.
stick
Yeah.
and it like yeah it's so funny and it reminds me of this sequence. It's really good.
Yeah. No,
um
I mean I really like I the whole time I was like, I can't believe what I'm watching. And so like these two moments in the movie, it viewed in a vacuum, you might think you're watching literally the greatest movie ever. Like it's
yes,
that good. Like when
yes, it is that
these
good.
two moments specifically, when I'm watching them, I feel like what I am watching is one of the best movies I have ever seen in my life. And then there's a lot more movie around it.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm gonna be even like beyond these two set pieces. All of the action is really well directed. I
yeah,
think.
I was gonna say because I feel like I've been saying that a lot. Where I'm like these two action set pieces are great. I love the shootout that they have in like wherever they like the I don't know what's the name of like the little island or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
I
an
yeah
island like an Arctic island. Um,
yeah.
the shootout that they have in the guy's house
In the Glove Shadows.
is yeah, in Glove Shadow's house, yeah. It's like I was like, "That's awesome." Even the early action in the movie, like, I'm like, "This is really fun." Like, there you know,
Yeah.
because 'cause I've talked a lot about this movie and referenced that, like, there's just, like, 2 hours worth of just, like, exposition at the beginning. That's not necessarily true. There are, like, moments of action that break it up, and they are fun. It's just, like, not enough to overlook all the other stuff surrounding it until we get to those 2 big action set pieces. But I agree. I do think all of the action is done really well. I yeah, if we're all still on the subject of positives, I'd probably want to mention like 2 additions to the cast that I think just absolutely kill it and make that submarine section even better. Tremel Tillman and Katie O'Brien show up in this
Bro,
movie.
they have so
Man,
much fucking juice!
Tremel Tillman is this
So
dude
much
like the
juice!
greatest actor alive? Like it's like
Dude!
he what is the line that he has where he's like
He's like,
he's something about
"Oh,
a bear where he's like if you want to like
if you
he's like
poke the bear, you
yeah, he's
came
like
to
if
the
you want to
right
poke the bear.
you're on the right ship."
Yeah. Like,
Oh,
he's awesome.
and, I love, like, there's the I mean, dude, every fucking he's so amazing. He's mogging the fuck out of everybody in this movie
Yeah.
in terms of his performance, bro. It's like when dude, I cannot stress how, like, this movie would be fucking, like actually, I would be on, like, the hill giving a sermon talking about how this movie should win Best Picture, this is the best movie in the
Yeah.
fucking world, if the whole movie was just the submarine shit,
Dude,
because
if they just remade like roughly The Abyss in 2025 and it's Tom Cruise, Tremel Tillman, and Katie O'Brien
dude,
on a
I'm, like,
submarine in
gonna
the deep
cry
sea,
thinking about it. It would
I
be
would be like,
so
this is the
amazing.
greatest movie anybody's ever
It
made.
would
Like
be the greatest movie ever.
it's
Dude, it's
so
like,
good.
every like, all the Tremel Tillman stuff is so good. Like, when Tom Cruise
Yeah.
first, like, gets on the ship and he's, like, in the shower looking fucking sexy, and Tremel Tillman's like, "What was your plan?" And Tom Cruise is, like, going, like, step by step, and he's like, "Go on.
Yeah.
Yes." Um,
Yes.
uh,
Um,
and
this made me literally think that we should talk about Severance on the TV pod. That's how much I liked Trevel Tillman in this movie. I was like, I'll watch. I was like, nothing has, friend of the pod, Sophie, has tried to get me to watch Severance over and over again, and swears that I will like it more than I like lead on, and that I'm being mean by shitting on it. Watching Tremel Tillman in this movie, I'm like, I'll watch Severance. I don't care. I'll watch it 5 times in a row if I get to see more of this guy.
and
Like, I just need him in stuff immediately, and it's a
yeah.
shame that he is like just getting popular now and really like just being put in the spotlight now because I need to have an entire like backlog of Tremel Tillman movies that I could watch like right now.
And Katie O'Brien, not as, like,
Awesome.
obviously
Yeah, she
amazing.
doesn't get like as many of like the moments that he gets.
But she, like, has juice with Tom Cruise where it's like they
Yeah.
connect. It's like their
Yeah.
characters meet each other and it's like there's like an unspoken magic thread that connects them. And it's like
Yeah.
they're like the same and they understand each other and there's such a mutual respect there. You could just feel
Yeah.
through the fucking screen and it's like, "Oh
Yeah.
my god,
She would
these two
be
guys have so
and
much."
we're gonna talk about
Oh,
this in the negatives, but she would be a terrific like franchise long team member for the Mission Impossible movies. Like she would have been perfect.
yeah, this is probably a good transition because we're talking about his surrogate team on the sub.
Yeah, as long as you don't have any other positives you want to list, because really all I had were the set pieces, the some of the cast, some of that horror stuff I mentioned. I wanted to say, but uh, other than that, I think I'm ready to get into the big bad.
Yeah, I just want to get into it, bro. The team. I think I want to start here. The team on this movie, like the team that he's found, I dislike it. I feel like
Yeah,
it's like just a controversial thing to say. I think that this team has no juice at all,
yeah,
like zero.
agreed entirely.
Like Palm Clementov is innocent, I guess. She doesn't have fucking anything to do in this movie, though. Like,
No, she doesn't. The person, and again, I this is just probably, and I'll make a larger point, and then we can talk about the team. But my larger point is that what happened here feels like arguably, I mean, maybe not even arguable, the worst script for a Mission Impossible movie, but then arguably when the year ends, one of the worst scripts for the entire year. In terms of, and again, I'm being dramatic because there are movies that are just like dog shit, but in terms of like what you might expect from a movie versus what you got, no script is going to get this low
it's
that all
almost
year.
certainly the worst Christopher McQuarrie screenplay.
Yeah.
Oscar-winning screenplay writer, Christopher
Yeah.
McQuarrie. Yeah.
Uh it's bad.
Yeah.
And so getting back to the idea of the team, there is a character and I don't want to I really and I think the reason why you texted me and said I thought you were going to disagree about this is because I do think as a face and as a guy there is something that I like about Greg Tarzan Davis. But his character, what was happening? This is how I would describe it, which is that in Dead Reckoning, this guy who along with the Shea Wiggum character is like working for the CIA or whatever, like trying to track Ethan Hunt down, and they're like kind of secondary antagonists. Obviously, there's the big like entity, and then there's like Tom Cruise's kind of has to be on the run while he's chasing the entity because it just adds all the stakes to the movie. And so he's also on the run from those guys, and they end up like creating roadblocks for him along the way. Uh, Shea Wiggum though gets to do the talking, gets to be the guy who is like a notable face that we know. This other dude is just Shea Wiggum's sidekick. He's just there. I don't even know if in Dead Reckoning he has a speaking line. He is literally just a face.
Yeah, I mean
And
so there's a conversation in Dead Reckoning that where it's like I don't know, the conversation's like a big word for it, but it's like there's like
yeah,
hints that the fuck, what's the actor's
yeah,
name?
no, I know. It's
Yeah.
like Dagus or Degas. I
Yeah,
don't know how to
Greg
pronounce it.
Tarzan
It's
Davis
spelled like
Davis.
Vegas with a D.
Yeah.
The character name, I mean,
Yeah.
not Greg Tarzan Davis, but
Um
um, yeah, I know what you're referring to. There is a conversation where he kind of hints at like he's like, "What if Ethan is like in the right?" You know, like
yes.
that's essentially what it boils down to. So
Yeah.
I'm being dramatic when I say he has no lines, but he pretty much has no lines. He's pretty much just a face, and that's the only like moment he really gets in that movie. In this movie, he becomes a face with a gun. He because of that sentiment in Dead Reckoning, he just like completely turns and is like, you know what? I trust. Not only do I trust Ethan Hunt with my life, but I will do and I will point and shoot wherever Ethan Hunt takes me.
He's
Like
like,
that is
not
what
only
I.
do I trust Ethan Hunt with my life, I trust Ethan Hunt with the entire fate of the universe.
Yeah, just
um
immediately like that, and whatever.
and
That's
his
fine.
role in the
Big,
fucking movie, his role in the literal movie is to sit in the corner and say lines of exposition.
yeah.
That's his
Uh,
whole job.
and big like big character turns whatever that's like a screenwriting sin I guess but that would be forgivable if not for the fact that he is the best character to highlight this with, which is why I'm bringing it up, but this is true for other characters. It's like he goes from a face to a face with a gun, and now he is like a really vital member of the team, and there are multiple moments in this movie where they emphasize the fact that he is a vital member of this team, despite the fact that none of us give a shit about him. Nobody has ever like he just showed up in the last movie and he wasn't even there pretty much. And so now they're giving him scenes where he's like, "I'll risk my life for you, Ethan Hunt. Like go save the world." And it's like, I mean, congrats, dude. I don't
There's a
nice,
scene
good for
towards the
you.
end where we're supposed to believe he's going to die, and it's just like, who gives a shit, dude? Who
Yeah,
fucking
I'm like,
cares?
I literally didn't care for a second, and then and again, we're spoiling it, but at the in the final scene where like it gets to the point where at the final scene where Ethan is like looking at all the members of his team and like saying goodbye, they show his face and they hold on his face for like 10 seconds, and I'm like, who invited you, dude?
Who
Like, did you
invited
like
this
why?
guy?
It's like, did someone add this guy to the group chat by accident? Because it's like I don't, you know what I mean? Like nobody needs you here.
It's so
Crazy.
like
And that is like how I feel really about all of the other members of the team, with the exception of the two people who have been staples in the franchise, Luther and Benji. And it's worth noting, Luther, spoiler, dies 30 minutes into this movie.
yeah,
And
by one of the 1 million atomic bombs that are in this movie for some
yeah,
reason.
that's the other, yeah. Oh my god, I like kind of ridiculous, um but also it's just like on the subject of the writing being bad, that's just another flaw where I'm like, one, the movie could just, I mean, every movie could use more Luther. And so you feel that he's gone immediately. It could also use more Rebecca Ferguson, like you said. But then just like specifically how they handle his death, it just doesn't work. Like I was shocked at the fact that my favorite character in the franchise died, and I really did not feel nearly enough for like what I should have with how invested I am in this character specifically. It falls so flat, and I think it's because like it ends up not really being a like it's in such a weird way where it's like he like Isai Morales just like you know like what's Isai Morales' character's like actual name?
Gabriel.
Gabriel, yeah, Gabriel. Like Gabriel killing him, it's like what, you know, like it's like I just I if he died later on in the movie in like the actual conflict of the film, I'd be like, okay, but this feels so like secondary to everything going on where it's like he just didn't have to die there. Like it's like why are we even killing somebody this early in the it's like kind of insane that that would happen. Um And so, like, you really don't feel anything for it because the stakes in that moment feel so incredibly low. Like, it's like you haven't even built them up yet. And so later they have like a fake out where you think Benji might die too. And and
Yeah,
if
when that fake out where Benji might die, at that point, I was so like, "Fuck it, whatever, bro." Like,
Yeah, exactly, that's what I mean, where it's like you already killed Luther and you did it in such an embarrassing way where it's like, if you just brought both of them along and then that fake out with Benji was Luther's actual death, I would be like, "Okay, yeah," I'd probably be sobbing in the theater. I'd probably be sitting there in my seat like ugly crying.
I think that there's
But
a way to kill part of my issue with this too is, like, the way that Luther dies, I think that when he dies, there's a way to make it really effective, honestly.
yeah,
But it's like,
I agree.
the way that he dies where it's like he has to dismantle this atomic bomb
It's
is
so
so
stupid. It's like
ridiculous.
all this guy does already is dismantle bombs, and you made him do it in his last moments, like, come
It's
on,
so
man.
I mean, it's like a cute moment where it's like he's like dismantling the bomb and he's like, Gabriel, there's no stopping Phineas Freak or something. And
Yeah,
it's
which
like
I thought was yeah, I liked
that's like a
that.
fun moment. And then Ethan running out, like crying is like that's
Yeah,
like a sweet moment too. But like
and
the
and
scene
I
feels
like that they,
clunky.
like I like that they do this, like, thing too when they talk to each other where they acknowledge, like, their greater purpose, and
Mhm.
obviously part of their greater purpose is, like, these people that they care so deeply about, but then it's also, like, the fact that that is the setup you use to emphasize it, to then have an entire movie with the people we care the least about, like, makes it even more of a slap in the face, I feel like, you know what I mean? To be like, "Do it for us," and then, like, the us is just, like, nothing but characters we really don't give a shit about.
And the detail again with the atomic bombs because they just do it a couple of times in the movie, and every time and now I've seen the movie 3 fucking times, right?
Yeah.
Which also it's like and like I feel so like I don't understand why Christopher McQuarrie likes this like writing device, like this plot device so much about
The
this
bomb.
this atomic bomb that like they can prevent from going nuclear if they just
Yeah.
remove one of the things. And it's like I don't understand why they that has to be in the movie multiple times. Like, I honestly
Yeah.
feel like it would be better if they just strapped like it was a fucking Batman, like Batman character, and they just strapped Luther to a chair with a bomb with a timer that's gonna go off and nobody can do anything. But like
Yeah.
making it so this thing where it's like, oh yeah, Luther has is like stuck in a room with an atomic bomb, and the atomic bomb's gonna actually blow up all of London if Luther doesn't like dismantle part of it, which won't blow up all of London. It'll just blow up like these series of tunnels. And it's like, what? Why are you making this so convoluted? Why like
That's really if you wanted to sum up the movie in a sentence, that's probably the one you'd say,
but you know
where
what I
it's
mean
like
though? It's like I
no,
don't
yeah, I
understand like
agree.
why he likes that plot device. It's so weird. Like
Yeah, no, I agree, and it is, and that gets me to like the greater point of it all being convoluted, which is like I do want to mention one more character moment actually, or one more character specifically because I think this is another like real point of emphasis is that part of this team that we haven't mentioned is just like such a disaster in this movie, and I really stand by the fact that it has nothing to do with the actress. Like I think she is totally fine. Why did Haley Atwell get so much attention in this movie? It is crazy. The fact that really this is an entire movie almost about his relationship with Haley Atwell when it's supposed to be like it's like this one last time thing. It's like let's emphasize how much Ethan Hunt cares about his team, and instead, really the person he cares about is this character who he just met in the last movie, who he has
also
no romantic chemistry with, and especially no sexual chemistry with at all.
and she just met in the last movie, Grace, Haley Atwell's character, didn't even trust Ethan for the most of the last
Most of
movie.
the movie,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's just like it's so weird because it's like, and again, I said the sexual chemistry thing because they linger on so many moments where I'm like, this is fucking weird, dude. Like it's so weird because
I
it's
just
like
don't buy them being like the
well,
sexual
because we
chemistry. I just
know
don't buy it.
Tom
I don't buy it.
Cruise now, you know what I mean? Where it's like Tom Cruise is like I mean, he's always been a star, and there's always been like that weird shit attached to him. But specifically in the moment that we're in, it's like people are too aware of the strange character that he is, and even he is so aware of it to the point where he is not playing like he's always been weird about like sex in movies and like kissing on screen and stuff. But now it's like at the point where he doesn't even want to like entertain that idea. And so when you have like an entire scene where it's the two of them with no chemistry, and then like you think they're about to kiss, but in your head you're like Tom Cruise doesn't want to kiss people, and it's awkward and it's like kind of gross, and it feels like watching like like one of your relatives kiss somebody in front of you, where it's like what, like it's like don't do that, like, and it's like,
You know what it
and then they
reminds
don't.
me of a little bit? This is gonna be so fucking rude, and a listener of the podcast is probably gonna hear me say this and be like, "You're an asshole." Um, but like, you know, Patrick Stewart, who was 90 years old. Um, he you know how there's like the Picard TV series? Uh, right? Are you aware
Uh,
of this? Where
I
it's
don't
like,
think I am.
oh, so there's a Picard TV series that's kind of like more recent, where it's like 90-year-old Patrick Stewart is playing like Picard
Okay,
and
from
then
Star Trek,
from
right?
Star
Okay.
Trek, yeah. Uh, and like part of that show is that he has a love interest in that show that is literally 50 years younger than him.
Damn.
And it's like my understanding is like he kind of like specifically asked for that, and
Okay.
well, and it's just like this kind of like bizarre like hubris that this kind of reminds me of a little bit, where it's like this romance is not like essential to the this finale of Ethan Hunt's character and this finale
Not at
of Mission
all.
Impossible. And it's like, does Tom Cruise just have the hubris and want to be like in this romance with this beautiful actress, right?
Yeah, it's
It's
so
like
weird because it's like, and this is, yeah, that's how I've described it, where it's like you have what we referred to in the second movie as like really hot, like kind of borderline womanizer Tom Cruise because he's like doing the James Bond thing. And then you have the third movie and he's like a character with a wife, and that really carries over for several movies. And then you have Rebecca Ferguson, who never quite becomes his wife, but also he has
it's
such
like
great chemistry with that it's like she might as well be.
yeah,
And
and it's really
and
established that it's like they are in love with each other, and
yeah.
they have and like in Dead Reckoning, it's kind of like it's like they have sex. Like it's hinted. It's like you know what I mean that they have a
Sure.
sexual relationship. Anyways, but yeah,
Yeah.
um,
But and that was literally just the last movie. And
yeah,
now no mention of her whatsoever in this movie. And not just no mention of her, but no mention really of like any of those romantic interests. And and instead just a lot of focus on a romantic interest that doesn't work. And then on top of that, it's like you're referencing the entire history of Mission Impossible movies, but you're not referencing the love interests. You're just referencing the modern one who isn't even a love interest. Like it's so strange to me that they think it needs to exist because it's like now the team doesn't work in this movie and now your love interest also doesn't work in this movie. And so there are no emotional stakes in this movie at all.
yeah, and
Like,
that's like probably honestly like the exposition stuff is bad, which we haven't even talked about, is
yeah, we're gonna
bad.
get to that. Yeah.
Um, but like I do think maybe the biggest problem the movie has for me at least is like Grace and Ethan just don't have like the chemistry, bro. They just
Yeah.
don't have the chemistry.
Yeah, for me, it's like the wider character thing where it's like
Yeah.
I agree that the exposition is bad. The bad part is that the movie is just flat. Like the characters literally just do not work all on the screen together really ever, with the exception of maybe that part we're talking about where Ethan and Luther are together right before Luther's death. That is like the only time where you are convinced that like the character relationships make sense at all during the entire movie.
Yeah.
Um,
I DM'd you a still of our team from Fallout, which is like Ethan Hunt, Benji, Luther, and Ilsa. And it's like comparing
yeah.
like those like that team of those four guys to this team of like seven, 8 people and Final Reckoning, and it's like, man, w- it's crazy how much worse we have it now.
Yeah, so much worse. And then yeah, we'll talk about that other part that we just hinted at. Like the other big flaw of the script is that it's just incredibly exposition heavy. Not only does it and a lot has been said about the fact that it flashes back constantly to other Mission Impossible entries, and there are constant cuts to moments in Mission Impossible entries, including cuts to Mission Impossible entries to explain some of the exposition in this movie, where it's like they're explaining details about how this movie will work by using scenes from previous movies and showing you them again. And if there's a moment pretty early on in the movie where they're showing like a real like a reel of all these things that have happened, and I liked it. Like early in the movie, like what, let's say like 20 minutes in or whatever, I was like, "Oh, if this is what everybody was complaining about, I'm not really going to have a problem with this. Like we're not on the same page." And then not only do they mention every one of those moments again, but they do it like
Like
6 or
yeah, like
7
6 times.
times.
I
And
was
I'm
like
like, "Okay, this is what you guys were complaining about." Where it's like they are literally like it's like there's a person in the corner of the theater with a PowerPoint presentation, like pointing at the screen telling you like, "By the way, if you forgot what we just told you 10 minutes ago, it is this part. Like remember this part of that movie."
I saw
It's
the
crazy.
I saw the movie last night with for the 3rd time. I've seen it 3 times with my friend, and afterwards she was like, "You know, there weren't that many flashbacks. I thought there were going to be way more." And I looked at her and I was like, "Bro, they flash back to that fucking submarine blowing up in the last movie 8 times. 8
Yeah.
times that same clip of the submarine blowing up." I
Yeah.
was like
When they do flashbacks to Dead Reckoning, I'm like, "Oh, you literally do not care." If
I
you
was
want
like,
a
"Yeah, there's
flashback
so many
when they
flashbacks in Dead Reckoning."
when they do flashbacks to the first Mission Impossible movie and it's him like falling and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool," like everybody
But they
like
do that 4
iconic moment.
times.
Yeah. But even then I'm like, it's iconic moment. It's like,
Yeah,
like some people watching this might be a new generation. They're not going to go back and watch a movie that's 30 years old.
right.
You're flashing back to the first part of a two-parter that came out 2 years ago.
It's crazy how much they do it. And that's where I mean where it's like the movie feels insecure. And that's what I mean when I say that. Like the flashbacks, I understand that some people fuck with it. Listen, uh Heather, right? Shout out Heather. She's
Mhm.
comparing it to fucking Hideo Kojima's Metal Gear Solid 4. Lots of
Uh-huh.
flashbacks in that game. That is like an extreme example that is like built into the style of the fucking thing. And
Sure.
Mission Impossible has always been very Metal Gear, but like this is the first time where I kind of felt like this is like maybe like these are some really heavy studio notes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's I think that's the only way you could interpret it. Where like from my perspective, it's just so obvious. It's so obvious it should have been one movie. It's so obvious that some decisions were made from the top down here, where it's like that you need to do this for audience retention or whatever. I didn't know that the audience retention needed to like the audience needed to be reminded of things that are happening in the same movie as the one that you're watching, where
Yeah.
they like remind you of something and then they remind you of the same thing again later, where it's like, did you forget during the 20 minutes that has passed in the movie that you're currently watching like that? But honestly, it feels like that's like a point we're getting to where like where like they you have to even be conscious of the fact that someone could have been like scrolling on their phone 20 minutes ago, so now you have to show them the same scene that you just showed them 20 minutes before in case they missed it the first time.
I think
It's crazy.
such an egregious example of this is when again we haven't even talked about him, the glub shido William Donlow, who's actor fine, the character fine. I don't actually have that much beef with it. I do think that it's like he probably shouldn't have been in the fucking movie, but it's fine, it's whatever.
I
don't
think
I
he
don't
could have
hate
been
it.
in the movie in an interesting way if he didn't come with them.
Yeah,
It's like it's
but
like as it's one of the good parts of the movie, I think, when he shows up. It's just that he stays there.
I think that there's like a good moment, a really good moment that's very touching to me. And I'm like, that's so sweet. Where it's he's on the plane and he meets Ethan, and he's like, and Ethan's like, I got to apologize to you for ruining your life. And then William Downlow's like, no, it's a matter of perspective. My life is my life now, and I love my life because of what you did, and
Yeah.
that's very very sweet. What
Yeah,
I
I thought that
hate
was one
about
of the
that
best
though
moments of the movie.
is when they fucking flashback to the fucking like the scene from the first movie that he's in that
Yeah.
we've already flashback to 3 fucking times.
Yeah,
I was
it's
like,
I'm
Jesus
like, "Well,
Christ.
why?" It's so stupid. And then the other thing I wanna mention about all this exposition that I don't know if this bothered you as much because maybe it didn't, but not only are they, like, using these flashbacks, but, like, in terms of the actual, like, movie that we're currently watching, they are dumping tons of information on you about the stakes and, like, the setup and, like, the actual, like, conflict of this present movie, including tons of exposition that was already told to us in Dead Reckoning.
Yes,
It was
yes.
already set up for us. And so and not only that, but by having all of these like weird tie-ins that they throw in where they're like, "Oh, by the way, the rabbit's foot that we didn't explain in Mission Impossible 3 is actually connected to this movie this way, and the character who you know, like, was this person in that movie is actually related to this guy in this movie. and
That's great.
and
That part is
guys,
fucking ridiculous.
insane. But by
Very fucking
doing all of
stupid.
this, you are like you are confusing the audience in a way that nobody has to be confused. It's like more people would probably be fine, and I know this for a fact as somebody who, as a young moviegoer, would go and see franchise films without having seen the previous entries in a franchise before they felt the need to to connect all the stories this way with tons of flashback. Is like people would be fine just being confused because you're there to watch like really cool shit happen. Generally, like the average moviegoer, what they are forgetting is like the average person is here to watch Tom Cruise do these crazy stunts, watch like these super intense action scenes, and not totally process the logic of the world, like the details of the conflict to 90% of the audience don't matter. But instead of acknowledging that and be like, "Oh, this is kind of confusing, but like whatever. You'll have fun in a moment." They're like, "You'll have fun in an hour because we need to make sure that you understand this actually." And it's like that has never mattered. In other even in other Mission Impossible movies that has never mattered. There are other in Mission Impossible 3, this movie that people will go to bat to defend, it doesn't matter to them that the rabbit's foot doesn't make sense. But now suddenly it has to make sense to a new generation of moviegoers that never even experienced the rabbit's foot the first time around. Like, who cares? Just you don't have to connect that at all. Just be like, yeah, this is confusing. By the way, the whole world's gonna end. China's kind of involved or whatever. Like, it's like for this reason, blah blah blah. There's like Israeli flags like 4 times for some reason, and you'll probably think about that because that's a big deal right now. And then by the way, now Ethan Hunt's gonna hang off a plane, and it's like I love when he hangs off the plane.
I
That's
love when he
awesome.
hangs off the plane.
Like,
No, I think honestly, bro, the exposition that all the exposition you fucking need to set up the stakes, they do. And it's when he gets into the towards the beginning of the movie, when he gets into the entity pod and the entity talks to him, and then he sees just like flashbacks of nuclear fallout, and it's like boom,
yeah,
that which effective flashback. I think it's a really
yeah.
cool little scene.
That early into the movie, I was like, this stuff works.
Yeah, that was really cool. That's all we needed. Like that it
Yeah,
sets that sets the stakes perfectly. You know what I would do if I were to like re fucking go back in time and reorganize this movie to make it a different movie? You have
yeah.
that. You have him getting that flashbacks. Then you fucking beeline to get him on that submarine as fast as fucking possible. Then you stay on that submarine for like an hour and a half.
Yeah. Yeah. And while you're at it, throw in the Vanessa Kirby scenes that you filmed.
Yeah, where the fuck is the Vanessa Kirby scenes that you filmed? Why are those in the movie?
It's like did they really are you really going to, and I don't know the details obviously of the process, but are you really going to tell me that Vanessa Kirby is not in the movie because you needed all of this? You know? It's like watching this as the final product. Is that what you're really telling me? Is that Vanessa Kirby, who by the way, this summer in just a few weeks is going to be one of the stars of one of the biggest
In like
movies
the
of the
biggest
summer,
movie of the year. Yeah.
uh you're telling me that she's not in this movie at all, despite being an important character in literally the last movie.
And the movie before that.
Yeah,
Yes.
just because you needed to tell people that in the first movie, the guy who lost his job moved to fucking Antarctica and is living in a cabin and he's
Or
like,
because you needed a fucking entire scene dedicated to us learning that Shea Wiggum's dad is John Voight from the first movie.
yeah,
That's like, which is
why?
also like, stupid. Don't even tell us that. It makes the movie worse. Knowing that makes the movie
Yeah.
fucking worse. Don't tell
Oh
us
my
that.
god, it's so dumb.
Cut
It's
that
so
entire
dumb.
cut that entire scene out. Just make Shea Wiggum's thing with Ethan Hunt like an unspoken, like, oh, I wonder what's going on there. Don't resolve it at
Yeah.
all, actually. It's
Yeah,
like,
what happened to question, in the third movie we were talking about questions that don't get answered. What happened to that? What happened to just letting people think, you know? It's
yeah,
like
you make Shea Wiggum's thing like because now it makes it like weird and confused. Shea Wiggum's thing like doesn't have to like it's like it could just be like a thing. It doesn't have to, you know what I mean? I don't know.
yeah. No, I agree. I mean, that it's yeah, it's just true. One thing that I'll mention too on this subject that Doug and I talked about privately off pod is this idea where it's like the movie gets better if not just you don't even have to just spend time on the submarine. if he just went on the submarine and his team became Tremel Tillman and Katie O'Brien and Benji and Luther, or in this case just Benji, infinitely better movie.
Yeah.
If they just came with him and became
Yeah.
parts of the team. Because the thing is, in the past, the principle has always been that people who join the team are people involved in the IMF somehow, right? But then in this movie, we get that character we're talking about who is not an IMF agent, but
No.
just joins them and carries a gun the whole time. You
Yeah.
know who I would love to see join them and carry a gun
For
is
Katie
Katie O'Brien.
O'Brien. Yeah. Yeah.
I'd be pretty happy watching Katie O'Brien carry a gun around and shoot people.
Yeah, it is like this team is really tough. It's like I keep saying this. There is an Ilsa Faust sized hole, like a Rebecca Ferguson sized hole in this movie that they
Yeah.
try so hard to fill with Grace, with
Yeah.
Haley Atwell, and she's not. I'm not. My thing is like Haley Atwell's a fine actress, and Grace could be a fine character if she didn't have to replace Ilsa Faust and just be his fucking romantic interest in the movie. You
Yeah.
know, it's like
Yeah,
that
no, that's
is
what I think she would. She could have stayed on the team. I think she's different than like you said with Palm Clementine. Yeah, she's not bad in the movie, but her character doesn't really need to be there. With Greg Tarzan Davis, like you said, like it's like he's just again similarly, he'd probably be fine if he was a character with a personality, but he's not.
Paris could be on the team. She is on the team, right? But Paris could be like such a good member of the team, but she doesn't have anything to do in the
Yeah,
movie. They just don't give her anything to do.
yeah, they don't give her anything to do. They don't give him anything to do other than shoot a gun.
Yeah.
And so like Haley Atwell has stuff to do is the thing. So she's
Yeah.
like actually a valuable member of the team. Were she not a romantic interest? Like it's like her plus these two people joining in that are actually good new characters. There's something there. It's not what the movie is. There's also you mentioned the Dunlow character. I feel like we have to talk about all of that a little bit more because that's also like similar to Haley Atwell, a big part of the movie. I like the fact that he comes back. He's the he's in the first movie and we haven't seen him in a very long time. And that's the other thing. It's like when he shows up, you're kind of like you see his face and you're like, oh, I know that face. And then they could have just like reminded us one time. It's like this is why you know that face, and
I
that's probably
recognize
enough.
him immediately because there's a
Yeah.
flashback with his fucking face in it, like 20
Yes.
minutes before this he's
Yes.
introduced.
Exactly.
Like,
But instead they have to like really drawn out like describe
no,
his
I honestly
significance
think
to the
like that's like
story.
real fucking like screenwriter sin. Like this is bad. Is Benji being like, wait, Bill Dunlow? As
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
William Donlow? This guy's a
Yeah.
coding genius. This guy coded the Black Vault at Langley. That shit, and it's like, yo, shut the fuck up. It's like,
Yeah.
shut the fuck up.
Yeah. No, it's like stop talking. Yeah, I agree. And well, so what I was gonna say is like that scene on its own, because when he shows up originally, like when he's revealed and you find out that he's the guy from the first movie who got sent to that base in the middle of nowhere, that's the only real moment in the movie where you're like, oh, this is as funny as a Mission Impossible movie is supposed to be. Which is speaking of the writing, and I don't even know if I've mentioned this and I'm just being redundant because we've talked about so many issues, but like another big flaw of the movie, it's not as funny as the average Mission Impossible movie. It's not. And part of that probably is that Luther is in 20 minutes of the movie. But nobody fills the void of like this being a funny movie
The
other than
comedy is kind of
that
bad in this
character.
movie.
Yeah, it is. It's like when they do try to make jokes in this movie, they don't land.
There's a joke really early on, like in the second or third scene of the movie, where Ethan Hunt like kills a bunch of people, like kills two or three guys to save himself and Haley Atwell's character Grace. And
Yeah.
Grace like looks shocked, and then Tom Cruise, and this is like also like Tom Cruise. It's like the writing isn't helping him, but then like Tom Cruise isn't like selling the moment and very well either. Where it's like Tom is like, "Oh, you didn't think I was gonna let them do anything to you, huh? Right? Like, no, like, and it's like I don't know, it's not landing. It's not landing. The joke doesn't land.
No.
Yeah.
No. I know, I agree. And that's what I'm saying. Like I think this scene when he shows up is like actually funny. And then he is like for the rest of the movie, one of the main members of the team,
And
to
his
the point
wife
where
is also there.
yeah, and his wife, and they have to disarm a bomb with Greg Tarzan Davis, who you know, like
Is there.
he wants to sacrifice himself, and then actually they like 10 minutes later find a solution where nobody has to die, and so it's like you gave him a character moment just to be like, actually, that's not really that big of a deal. And then they all survive, and also again, they're disarming a bomb that for some reason exists that you probably didn't need it there,
Yeah,
but
the
uh,
Donalo character and the Degas character really do make this feel like like Disney era Star Wars to me.
yeah. Well, because it's weird because it's like essentially what you're doing is you're setting up a bunch of moving parts so that there's as much tension as possible
Mhm.
in the big finale.
Yes.
The problem is the only moving part that is compelling is Tom Cruise because he's Tom Cruise
Mhm.
and because he's doing the most insane stunt work ever.
Yeah.
All of the other stuff surrounding, and no, I will say that's even a stretch because I think, and again, this is the one time where they let Palm do something in the movie when she is operating on Benji and like doing the like classic like this is a spy movie like pen in the chest tube kind of thing. I'm like that's fun and like and I also think it's even a fun idea that Haley Atwell has to like use her talent to like grab the thing really quick. I'm like
Yes. That's good.
that's like a good
Yeah.
thing.
The end of the movie's
And but
good.
then yeah,
Yeah.
but then we're like also the other moving part here is a team of 3 people who we do not give a shit about doing a task that we also don't give a shit about, which also ends up not getting in the way at all because they end up not sacrificing themselves, but instead just surviving it. So, like, why is that happening during the rest of all of this? It's so weird. It's like so much of the movie. The problem is literally just the script. It's like the decision making is just bad. Like the final product is just not what you want. And I mean, we don't have to like keep digging in, but I think the real takeaway is just oh, do you have another thing that
Well,
you
I
wanted
just
to
hit me like a
mention?
truck. I was like, we didn't even talk about how the Russians at William Donlo's house, they
Oh
have a
yeah.
key.
Right, yes. So the key is just like
And it's just like a throwaway line that they also have a key. It's like, what? It's like, do they
yeah,
have a
it's like
fake key? Like what?
so this
Like
whole thing that the last movie was about that is now like
that's
it's
just
like
bizarre. Why do they have a key? What the like, what the
yeah,
fuck?
it's so weird. And then and it's like it also kind of lowers the stakes a little too, where
Well,
it's
just
like
like it's just a weird thing to include in the movie. I'm not even. Yeah, it's just
yeah. No, you're right. There's a couple things like that that I'm probably forgetting just because it's so much movie, and it just kind of like a lot of it goes over your head because of how dumb it is. But there's a couple moments like that where you're like why is this even a deal? Like logic stuff specifically like that again like and it's one of those things where it's like you don't want to cinema sins it too much, but like some of it is just stuff that it's like just like as writing it doesn't make sense where
yeah.
it's like like things just happen and you're like why is this happening like what like
We
mhm,
got it out of our system a little bit. The
yeah.
movie's really good though.
Yes.
The
Yeah,
movie's
that's what I
really
but
good.
yeah, the movie's really good. It is I think what I would end on is, like, it's not only is it disappointing,
Super disappointing.
it's it is disappointing specifically as a send-off for a franchise that the 2 of us really adore,
Yeah,
you know?
two of
Where
my
it's like
favorite movies ever are in
are
this
in this franchise.
franchise.
Yeah.
Straight up. Yeah.
Yeah. It is like it's and this is and for a lot of us, for a lot of people listening probably, it's a franchise that you adore. It's also, like, a lot of people who adore it are fine with this movie.
A lot of
And I
people
don't know
fucking love
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if this conversation has given you new perspective or if this stuff just doesn't matter to you, but really I'm
Or if you think we're dumb, comment below, say you're dumb.
sure yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, you could do that too. But I just mean like it is really shocking to me that that is so many people's takeaway because it's hard to appreciate everything that's so good about this movie when that is like, like it's like I've said this publicly already, but like in the days since I've watched the movie, it it is so much more on my mind, like all of these little nitpicks than the best parts of the movie, which are some like it's like the height of filmmaking is the best parts of this movie.
Yeah.
But I literally can't think about them because it's so much easier to think about everything that's wrong with it. And so like I guess if you're somebody who it's like all made up for by the fact that these two stunts are great, or if you have some different angle on the rest of all this stuff happening, then maybe you could ignore it. But for me, it's just kind of impossible to ignore, and as a result, yeah, like, it's just a big disappointment. It's like I did like the movie. I had fun in the theater. Even during the really stupid parts, like even during all of this bad stuff, I was still pretty much having fun because I knew where I'd end up eventually. Um, and there's like moments in between where I'm like, yeah, this is fun. And so it's good, but it's far from great. Like it like far from great. Because there's just so many mistakes. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know if they will try to like mine out another movie where Tom Cruise is like just the like the team leader.
No, I don't
Uh,
think they will. There's a little inside baseball like reading of this where it's like Tom Cruise has a deal for Warner Brothers now where he has to make movies at Warner Brothers, and Paramount I think is like scared of that. So that's why Paramount's trying to get Top Gun, and all of Tom Cruise movies are up to this point have been Paramount movies. He's like the
right.
president of fucking Paramount basically. So like Mission Impossible and Top Gun are both Paramount movies. So I feel like Paramount will probably like want to do another one.
Sure.
But the thing is, like, they're so expensive. That's the only issue is that they're so like the budget for this movie was like $400 million, which is crazy.
Yeah. Is there a world in which they just like revive a third Tom Cruise franchise or make a legacy sequel for a different movie that's not Top Gun and not Mission
They
Impossible?
are. They're doing Days of Thunder.
Oh, sure, yeah. I
Yeah.
guess that's true. Um,
Or
hmm,
what are you saying? Cocktail 2?
no.
Oh
Have you watched Cocktail?
no,
I'd
is it?
like to watch it. I feel like I'd maybe like it a little bit.
It's probably cute. We also didn't talk about enough. Tom Cruise is naked in this movie a lot, and he's very
Yeah, Tom Cruise is naked in this movie a lot. Tom Cruise is also I don't know how you feel about this, but I do think it's like one of the weaker performances from him in the franchise just because of how clunky the writing is. Like I don't know that he is like just because like the emotional stakes like I said, like it's like I don't know that he's like doing his best work because I don't think they're like letting him.
It's just it's tough when he doesn't have the yeah, I don't know, it's tough. I think he's good in the movie still, and I think that he's,
Sure.
like,
Yeah, he's
great
Tom
there's
Cruise.
moments where he's great in the movie, but it's
I
like
agree.
some of these exposition scenes where he's just talking to the team are tough, are pretty
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah. I will say seeing him naked as often as we do, especially can like it's a very impressive body for a
Oh my
sixty-two-year-old or
god.
whatever. Yeah, like unbelievable. If I yeah, well, I don't even know if I'll make it to 62, but
I definitely am not making it to 62,
yeah,
but,
I got back pain. I'm 20, I'm 25 or in Doug years I'm 34 or something whatever.
true.
I don't depend
Facts.
it just
Facts.
depends on the pod, um but yeah, Tom Cruise is good. Tom Cruise and also it's like one of those things where and this is the other thing that I'd leave on is that uh you almost like and again, this is why I like wanted to be so positive when I first got out of the movie is like you almost want to refrain from shitting on it because of how meaningful this franchise is and specifically how meaningful Tom Cruise is to the larger picture where it's like we've been talking a lot in the lead up to the final reckoning. It's like Tom Cruise is going to save us. It's like just like he did a few years ago with Top Gun Maverick, and just as kind of he's been doing for a while. It's like that we needed we needed Tom Cruise to swoop in and save us. And in the larger sense, he achieves that. But in like the like our perspective of the movie sense, you know, not not quite. But like you almost want to just like be grateful for Mission Impossible movies existing and just be like, yeah, it rocks. Like almost all the negative talk that we've had about this movie is we could just like void it and be like, yeah, go because that's really like the takeaway for me is like that's the good stuff is so good that I would not discourage a single person in the world from watching this movie. I'd be like, not only should you watch it, you better watch it in theaters. Like you need to like go experience that on an
Yeah.
IMAX screen,
Yeah.
you know? So like as much as we just tore into it for whatever 45 minutes, it's like who
A long
cares?
time, yeah.
Yeah, it's like who cares?
We've crushed it, bro.
Yeah. Good job. Way to work out there. Anyway, before we get to the can talk that we're gonna do, let's quickly wrap up Mission Impossible by just reading off our ranking so that the people can be made aware of it publicly on the pod. If you have yours prepared, I
I
could go first.
I do have
Um,
mine prepared.
from and I think mostly we feel similarly, although like everything's going to be in a different spot, but in terms of like how we rank them against each other, we feel kind of similarly. I think the one place where we're going to disagree is like you're lower on Fallout and higher on Mission Impossible 2. But otherwise like our things kind of almost perfectly align.
Yeah.
From last to best, I've got Mission Impossible 3 in last, Mission Impossible 2 in second to last, The Final Reckoning in third to last. Ghost Protocol is my number 5. Dead Reckoning is my number 4. The first original Mission Impossible is my number 3, and then my top 2 is Rogue Nation at 2 and Fallout at number 1.
That's a pretty normal list. Honestly,
Yeah.
ours are really again, they're everything's in a different spot almost, but like it is
But it's like but
so
the
similar.
way we feel about them is, like, very
The
similar.
the art so mine goes as such where Mission Impossible 3 is last, and then I have The Final Reckoning as second to
Okay.
last. And then I have Mission Impossible 2, and
Okay.
then Ghost Protocol, and then
Right.
Fallout, and then Dead Reckoning, and then 1, and then Rogue Nation.
Yeah. So that it's like what I said, where it's like we have the same bottom three. We have Ghost Protocol in that spot where it's like bridging the gap
Yeah.
between the best movies, and then we just kind of feel a little bit differently about the best movies.
Yeah.
But we can agree what the best ones are and what the worst
I mean,
ones
if
are.
you just take like my list and you push Fallout from its position that it's in right now up to number 1, it's basically the same list as yours.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's the franchise. That's Mission Impossible. Let's jump into some can talk. As always,
Con.
con
Con.
like
No,
Comic
can.
Con.
Can's how you say it, yeah. But I'm
Uh,
just
anyway, yeah, we're gonna talk about Cannes, the film festival. As always, like, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube. Follow us on all our platforms. Rate the episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you could rate it. And let's talk about Cannes. Normally we'd talk about news, like I said, but this feels like kind of the biggest piece of news, and we want to dedicate a little bit more time to it. And since the Mission Impossible conversation is already so long, I don't think we should do both. So first, I just want to like kind of read through some of the big winners so that people who maybe didn't pay as much attention are aware of them, and then we could kind of talk specifically about the movies that you and I are excited for, that we think people should care about or whatever, or that I guess really that we specifically care about. Whether you could pick whatever movies you want to care about, but so the biggest award. So just looking at the movies that are in competition, because there's different sections of the festival. The movies that are in competition, the biggest award of the entire festival is the Palm, which went to Jafar Panahi, the director I mentioned earlier, for his movie. It's either titled "It Was Just an Accident" or "A Simple Accident," depending on the translation. I guess
yeah.
it goes by both titles. So we'll see like what the actual title is when it releases. But you'll know the movie when it comes out. It won. That's the movie that wins the Palm. If you're listening to the pod, you've got to at least be familiar with this one, I imagine.
Yeah, Palme d'Or,
Then
biggest movie award, arguably. Like
yeah,
most significant
yeah,
movie award in the
yeah.
world.
Uh, and then we get a couple more. We get like the Grand Prix goes to Sentimental Value, the Joachim Trier
Yeah,
movie.
the Grand Prix is basically like the silver medal. If the Palme d'Or is the
Yeah, it's like
gold
the
medal,
runner
it's like
up.
yeah, it's the
Yeah.
runner up. Yeah.
And then director goes to a director whose name I will 1000% butcher. It's Kleber Mendoza Filo, who directed The Secret Agent, a movie that's been pretty buzzy out of Cannes, a movie that I've heard a lot of conversation about. And then Best Actor also goes to Wagner Moura for The Secret Agent. This is a movie that I've seen compared to I'm Still Here from last year, which just this year won the Best International Feature Oscar.
Yeah.
The Secret Agent I've heard is kind of similar to that, and so that if you're somebody who liked that, it's a movie to have on your radar. Um, Best Actress goes to Nadia Malidi for Little Sister.
Mhm.
The jury prize was a tie between two movies, Surat and Sound of Falling. Sound of Falling is the one I've heard about a little bit more. Surat I heard a little bit about, although I don't know that it excites me as much as some of the other buzzy
I
movies.
know I think
Uh,
people thought Seurat might have won the Palm, right? It
Yeah,
was
yeah, it
really
was talked about
yeah.
like that. Yeah, it was definitely up there, but it gets the jury prize in a tie with Sound of Falling, which is a movie that I'm a little bit more excited about. We'll talk about that in a second. But then there's a special award, the pre-special for Resurrection. The is it Begone or Bygone?
It's
Begone?
it's most similar to Began. Like
Okay,
yeah.
Began. Okay. Anyway,
It's
that
yeah.
movie, Resurrection, wins a special award because they Uh, they just decided to give it a special.
Yeah, did
They
you
didn't
see,
know
like,
how to
their,
award
like,
it.
reasoning?
They like I saw, yeah, I saw like somebody explain. I forget who it was, but they were just like we just wanted to do it.
They were like, "The movies, like" they said something like, "The movie's unlike anything we've ever seen," or something like, it's like a spiritual something,
Yeah,
so we just wanted to. And they were like,
yeah,
"Sometimes the jury president is allowed to make special awards, and then the jury can make a decision based off of that to allow it."
yeah.
And it's like, "Okay."
Well, but it's funny because like in this like press conference that they did, they like there was a couple questions where they asked them, and essentially their answers just boiled down to like, yeah, we wanted to, and I'm like, you know what? They should do that more often. Like that's fun, actually. I think that is good logic. Is just like we wanted
There
to.
were a
Like
lot of
it's like
really famous people in not a lot, there were a couple of really famous, like, high profile people in this jury this
yeah,
year, and I
Jeremy
think they
Strong.
took it, like, the shit super seriously. Like,
Yeah. No,
yeah.
I mean, well, that's one of those things where it's like, and people could talk about his qualities as an actor, but like someone like Jeremy Strong, I'm like, this guy, this guy knows his stuff and
Yeah.
like doesn't mess around. Like it's like he was a great addition to that jury. Like that's the kind of like if you're going to put like a high profile actor in the jury, like that's the kind of guy who I appreciate being there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Anyway, and then the screenplay award goes to Jean Pierre and Luc Dardenne, a duo. I think are they brothers? I think I'm not sure. I think they're brothers for the movie Young Mothers. And then some of the other prizes. Uh, the is it just Camera Door or is it like is camera pronounced with like a fun
It's
French? I don't
yeah, it's
know.
like print out like camera, but with a French accent, yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'm not gonna do that. But anyway, that award goes to the President's Cake, Hassan Hadi. Um, then there's a special mention as well for that award to My Father's Shadow. Um, we don't have to talk about like the short films if we don't want to, although maybe they'll come up at the Oscars again. I don't really know how distribution for like short films works. I'm Glad You're Dead Now won the short film palm. Ali won the short film special mention. There's a documentary prize for a movie called Imago. There is a special jury prize for the $6 billion Man. There's a queer palm that goes to Little Sister, the movie I just or no, I didn't mention that one yet. Little Sister is another one that I've heard a decent amount about. Uh, then there's the Palm Dog. Is this what I think it is? Is this just an award that goes to the best dog of the?
I think so.
Okay, well, it
Uh,
went to Panda for The Love That Remains. And now we're just I think that now we're just getting into the nitty-gritty, in
now
terms
we're
of
getting into,
awards
like, real
what
yeah.
I'm talking about. But then there's a separate, like I said, the can separated into separate category. There's Un Certain Regard, which is not in competition. In Un Certain Regard, the main award for that went to The Mysterious Gaze of the Flamingo.
Mhm,
The jury prize went to a movie called A Poet. The Best Director prize went to a duo for Once Upon a Time in Gaza.
mhm.
Actor went to Frank Delane for Urchin, which is the Harris Dickinson debut.
Yeah.
Actress went to Cleo Diarra for I Only Rest in the Storm, and screenplay went to Harry Lighton for Pillion, a movie that I've heard a lot about as well. That is intriguing me. And then there's the director's fortnight category. There's critics awards as well. We don't have to get into all of that, but those are the awards that you should be aware of. And now I just want to talk a little bit about generally movies we're excited for. It doesn't just have to be ones that won awards, but just movies that played at Cannes that we're excited for. We wanted to separate this a little bit into just like mentioning the obvious ones and then talking about the ones that people might not be as aware of.
Yeah.
Although it's kind of for when I was putting the movies together, I was like, what category necessarily would this fall in? Where it's like, for example, something like the Palm winner, it was just an accident or a simple accident. If you listen to the podcast, you're probably aware of the movie that won the Palm, but it's also not nearly going to be as popular. The new Jafar Panahi movie is not going to be nearly as popular as the new Wes Anderson movie,
Yes, so that's kind of
And
what I was
so,
thinking of, like, for example, Eddington, right?
yes,
The new Ari Aster, everybody knows about this because Ari Aster is a very popular filmmaker, right?
yeah,
So I was like so that kinda would be like yeah, that you know what I
yeah.
mean?
And
Yeah.
so, if we're just separating it into popular filmmakers who we all kind of know and acknowledge and talk about pretty often. I would say the obvious choices that I am excited for that we have kind of already expressed on the podcast that we're excited for are obviously the Mastermind, the Kelly Reichardt movie, my most anticipated movie of the year, probably not just at Cannes. Uh, Alpha, the new Julia Ducournau movie, which got pretty mixed reviews.
Like
Really,
mixed negative, really.
yeah, mixed negative
Yeah.
reviews, but none of those deter me from
No,
how
yeah.
excited I am.
Yeah.
And yeah, you would say the same. Die My Love, the new Lynn Ramsey movie, starring Robert Pattinson and Jennifer Lawrence. That one, another like buzzy one, but everybody's going to be aware of that. The Phoenician Scheme, the Wes Anderson movie, like I just said.
Comes out next week though.
I mean, duh. And then the other like this kind of falls in between those two, but I'd lean more towards like popular and everybody kind of knows about it at this point. Sentimental Value, the Joaquin Trier movie.
Yes.
Uh, he directed The Worst Person in the World previously, like other movies as well, but The Worst Person in the World, as far as like international films go, was a pretty big deal. And this movie, like we said, won that kind of runner up award and was probably the buzziest movie at the festival. Like even more so than it was just an accident, just in terms of like
Well, it had the
people.
crazy, like, standing ovation.
Yeah, it got the crazy standing ovation, the 3rd longest standing ovation in the history of Cannes,
Yeah.
and, it was, like, what, 19
It's
minutes, I
19
believe.
minutes, which
The longest is
what the f
22
like,
minutes,
what
so
the
not that
fuck?
far off.
What are you
Yeah,
doing for
19 is
19
crazy.
minutes, bro? Like, it
Well, what I've heard is, like, it gets, like, awkward because, like
would get
because
awkward
then, like
after, like, 2 minutes.
yeah, it gets awkward. When we were at New York, the longest standing ovation was for me probably like yeah, either 2 or 3 minutes, I think. I think when I saw Hard Truths, people clapped for a while, but it couldn't have exceeded 3 minutes.
Yeah.
19 minutes, it's like so what I hear happens is like they just like clap, but then like if you're involved in the movie, you just kind of have to stand there. But like half of the people in the audience are just like scrolling on their phones at that point. Like by the time you get to like the 15th minute, they're like checking all their notifications, but they're still like kind of half clapping in between because like you don't like nobody's stopped yet. And
Yeah.
it's just like that's so weird. Like it's like what at that point just stop. Like it's like if half the people have taken out their phones or like are just like like they're checked out. It's like just you could stop. That's fine. But they don't. They went on for 19 minutes. So yeah, that's like kind of the buzziest movie and just in terms of like how it has breached like the internet largely, like whether you're on film Twitter or TikTok or whatever, like that's probably the one you've heard about the most out
Yeah.
of Cannes.
Yeah.
And so those are is there another like obvious movie that I guess Eddington, right? I didn't put that on my list because I don't know that I'm as excited as you are, but
I mean, I don't know. I'm not super excited for Eddington. I do think I'll like it though. I think I don't know how you feel about this. I would almost put like Resurrection in this category too.
okay. I
Um,
don't know that I would quite do that. I had
okay.
that on the other category.
Okay,
I
okay,
think
okay.
it's weird because again, it's like it depends who the audience we're speaking to is. Where it's like I do think most people listening to the pod are probably at least vaguely familiar with this movie, but I'm trying to like
Sure.
separate them in
Okay.
terms of like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
whether it's a real big. I guess the other ones you'd mentioned like in terms of popular movies that I didn't include are like Nouvelle Vague, the Richard Linklater movie.
Oh, for sure.
Um, which
Yeah.
I didn't totally put on my list because it's like I don't know. I'm obviously excited for this. Richard Linklater, one of my favorite directors. We dedicated a whole episode to him, but I'm not like crazy excited for it
Do you
because
like
I just,
Breathless?
haven't seen Breathless, and that's why I'm
Ooh,
not crazy excited for it.
interesting.
So
Okay.
I almost also when I watched the Jafar Panahi movie yesterday, I almost also watched Breathless instead of that. So I'll probably watch Breathless pretty soon. Um,
Breathless, one of the single most important movies ever made.
yeah,
I don't know about this Nouvelle Vague movie. It looks cute, but like I don't know,
Yeah,
you know?
but I think I saw like somebody mention the perspective where it's like I do think that will probably make me like the movie more. Where it's like
Mhm.
if you just don't take it as seriously of like so because the thing
Yeah.
is like annoying people are going to take this movie really seriously,
That's yeah,
and
yeah.
so they're going to rip it apart. And it's like I think if you and again I hate to be that guy because I've seen this like similar like I've seen people talk about Mission Impossible like that where it's like you're taking this too seriously, and it's like but I think in this case from Linklater's perspective it really is like that where it's like it's supposed to be like kind of like lighthearted fun like and not you know,
Yeah, that's what
it
like,
does
all
not
the
need to
reactions
be
out
a
of Can
recreation of
were
like
like were basically like, "It's a really cute, like, unserious movie."
yeah, and
Yeah,
from that perspective, I think I'm going to like it.
yeah.
Like, in fact, I might even love it because he's one of my favorite filmmakers. But so that's like another more like popular one, I guess. Another like popular one would be The History of Sound because it has Josh O'Connor and Paul Mescal, and I previously was like sort of excited for that movie, but I you'll recall, I don't know if I said this on the podcast or not, but when we talked about this in the past, I was like, the problem with this one is that it's directed by Oliver Hermanis, who does not excite me at all as a filmmaker. And so, as much as I love the two of them, those are pretty much like two of my five, if not just the top two favorite working actors right now. Uh, Putting them in a movie together, directed by a guy who I have no real attachments to, and it's like a historical like biopic. I'm like, nah, whatever. So I don't. This it feels like it's got like movie that I'm just like fine on written all over it. Like I probably won't hate it because it has two of my favorite actors, but much more than that, I don't know that I'll come out of it with. Um, and then we've got these, I guess, under discussed movies. The one that I've already mentioned is the Palm winner, which we'll hope, we'll see how it performs throughout the year in terms of the award circuit, and then we'll find out if it's a if it'll become a bigger deal. Because sometimes it is the case that the Palm winner does not take the Honora track that you might, like people might think
It
that because of what
usually
Honora
doesn't.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like people might think that because of what Honora just did, it's like the Palm is going to be such a big deal, and it's like this movie that's going to be brought up over and over and over again. It's like even recent movies that we love, like Titan, they're talked about, but it's like Titan never made it to mainstream awards and never like killed it in the box office. It's like most of these movies winning the Palm are not going to go on to make $100 million, win, get nominated for Best Picture. Like that's just not the case typically. And so whether or not this movie like ends up in that conversation, yet to be determined. But like, I would put it in like the more underseen because it's just like this is a filmmaker that most people are not going to be familiar with. Like the average person, at least, is not going to be familiar with, even as much as Sean Baker for Honora. So that's obviously an exciting one because it won the Palm, and he seems like a good filmmaker. Another one that I would bring up that I already kind of referenced was Sound of Falling,
Yeah.
uh, which so I'll for these underseen movies, I'll kind of give you a little bit more insight and read you guys the summaries. But like this one, over the course of a century, as four girls from different time periods experience their youth on a German farm, their lives become intertwined until time seems to dissolve. You got me hooked.
No,
I
that
like it.
sounds yeah, that
I
sounds
like it.
good.
It sounds good. The reviews have been very positive. Almost everybody, actually everybody I follow, has given it 4 stars or higher, which is intriguing. So I look forward to that one quite a bit. The next one that I wrote down was another one I mentioned won a couple awards. The Secret Agent. This is the one that is similar or being talked about as similar to I'm Still Here. It stars Wagner Moura. Um, Similarly reviewed by people that I follow, and also just similarly reviewed generally. It has like a 3.7 on Letterboxd. Positive reviews, and the description for this is Brazil 1977. Marcelo, a technology expert in his early 40s, is on the run. He arrives in Recife. I'm definitely not saying that right. During Carnival Week, hoping to reunite with his son, but soon realizes that the city is far from being the nonviolent refuge he seeks.
Mhm.
Uh, Sounds good. I'm on board. The next movie I wrote down was Resurrection, which you've referenced. I don't know if you want to add anything to the conversation about Resurrection, but I could read the description for it. Uh, in a world where humanity has lost the ability to dream, one creature remains entranced by the fading illusions of the dream world. This monster, adrift in reverie, clings to visions no one else can see until a woman appears. Gifted with the rare power to perceive these illusions for what they truly are, she chooses to enter the monster's dreams, determined to uncover the truth that lies hidden within.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, full transparency, this is my most and like this is the one movie from the festival I am most excited for. Like
Yeah.
that stands above everything else. Like, so this movie has been like in production, like kind of like similar to like The Way of the Wind, right? But like not as extreme, where it's like this movie, people have been waiting on this movie for a really long time, and this movie coming out now is like a really big deal. Because so Big On be I don't know, I don't whatever. Big On, he he's like a really big deal, and he does not make a lot of movies. And uh by all accounts, from like people that saw it at the festival, and unfortunately, I don't know if you do. I don't like none of the people I know that went to the festival watched this movie, so I cannot ask anybody about it. But
Yeah.
it's from what everybody's saying. It's like they're saying that this is the craziest looking fucking movie that has ever been made. Like,
Yeah.
um,
I'm really excited for this one. I want to watch his other movies.
yeah,
There's not a ton of them, but like I've been wanting to watch them for a while, and obviously like hearing about this movie at Cannes has only made me want to watch them more. Uh, the next one that I wrote down, and this one is maybe to me the most intriguing, just in terms of like movies that I didn't know anything about before the festival. This is the one that won the Camera d'Or, the President's Cake,
mhm.
Hassan Hadi. That award specifically goes to first time feature filmmakers, and so this is a debut feature. Let me read you the description for this one. It's draw day across Iraq when schools select students for the honor of bringing items to their mandatory local celebrations of President Saddam Hussein's birthday. 9-year-old Lamia lives in the historic marshes with her spirited grandmother, Bibi. Before school, Bibi teaches Lamia clever tricks to avoid being chosen for the president's cake. However, when Musa, the authoritative teacher, calls Lamia's name for the most challenging task, the birthday cake, she has no choice but to accept. Refusing could mean imprisonment or even death.
That rocks. That sounds sick.
I'm so on board. I'm like, this sounds awesome. So this is the one, like, just in terms of like movies that I didn't know about before the festival started, easily the most excited I am for one of them. Like some of these other movies I might be more excited for, but I was already excited for them. This is like a movie I had no idea existed. And now I am happy to know that it does because I really want to watch this one. Um, Another one that really caught my attention was this movie, A Poet, directed by Simone Mesa Soto.
I don't know about this one.
Uh, this one is kind of described as a like a really bleak, dark comedy. The description: Oscar Restrepo's obsession with poetry brought him no glory. Aging and erratic, he has succumbed to the cliche of the poet in the shadows. Meeting your lady, a humble teenager, and helping her cultivate her talent brings some light to his days, but dragging her into the world of poets may not be the way. The way the description is written is very funny, but I'm like,
This is
uh,
really interesting. This
yeah,
actor is the nothing.
yeah, I'm really curious about this one. Um, and the most popular review is a 12 like review that gave it half a star. I translated the review and it translates to depressive poop, which
Yeah, and then the next most popular review has 5 stars. It's
yeah, and said the best watch in Cannes so far.
yeah.
Uh, I'm you've got
Hell
my
yeah.
attention.
Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
I this one really interests me. And then these last two I listed are somewhere in the middle of those two categories we established of obvious choices that are popular and under discussed choices, because I think if you're anybody, you've probably heard these movies discussed. Like they're, I think, a little more popular than some of the other ones I just named,
Mhm.
but they're not quite like the like big filmmakers. The first one is the debut from Harris Dickinson, Urchin,
Yes.
which Harris Dickinson is an actor who I really like. And so if you're somebody who likes Harris Dickinson, you've probably heard that he's making a movie. But otherwise, it's not, he's not a notable filmmaker like these other people yet. And so, well, we'll see. But people seem to like this. Like
Yeah.
people, I,
Charlie XCX loved it.
yeah, and I worry about something like this because it's like when I have this actor who I like making their first movie, I'm like, oh, it's probably going to be bad, as is the case with like a lot of actors' debut films. But the reviews were pretty positive, so I was like, okay, you've got my attention, Harris Dickinson. Um,
And
the
then the
description for this one
oh,
pretty short. It just says Mike, a rough sleeper in London, trapped in a cycle of self destruction as he attempts to turn his life around. Uh, what were you going to say?
I was gonna guess what the next movie you're gonna say was.
Oh, sure. Yeah, go for it. It's the last movie I have written down.
Well, it's the, Kristen Stewart directed one, right?
Oh, no.
Oh.
No.
Oh, then oh,
Do you want
fuck.
me to do you
Wait.
want me to include that as well?
No, I mean, I wasn't gonna talk about it. I thought that you were though. Is it, that movie looks really good though, the Kristen Stewart movie looks good. Wait, what movie do you have written down still?
Yeah, I have a different movie written down. We could quickly mention the Kristen Stewart movie, The Chronology of Water,
Yeah.
which has Imogen Poots starring in it. I think I'll like this one. I'm not like I didn't put it on my like most
It
excited about it
sounds
list,
really
but
good.
I'm excited in the sense that I love Kristen Stewart, and so I want to see the movie that she made.
I
But
saw somebody say it's like the whole movie is kind of like a mood poem, and like this every and the scenes are all super short. Like a scene doesn't last more than like a scene doesn't last more than like 2 minutes in the movie.
yeah,
Um, it
no, I
sounds
think I'll like
interesting.
this. Yeah, I think I'll like this. That one, the description is growing up in an environment torn apart by violence and alcohol, a young woman struggles to find her path. She manages to escape her family and enters university where she finds refuge in literature. Gradually, words offer her an unexpected freedom. I do think the plot of the movie is really intriguing to me. Like that definitely has my attention. No, the movie that I was going to mention, the last one, is Pillion, the Harry Lighton movie starring Harry Melling and Alexander Skarsgård. This is the
Oh,
gay biker movie that
right.
Alexander Skarsgård has been doing uh, interviews about. The description: a timid man is swept off his feet when an enigmatic, impossibly handsome biker takes him on as his submissive.
Yeah, that
Um,
sounds good. Um,
yeah, I mean it's just like it sounds like fun. People have been reviewing this one quite positively. People that I follow, I mean, I don't know about generally, um, but it seems like fun. I mean, Alexander Skarsgård. Like I saw some people complaining. It was weird. I saw Alexander Skarsgård like clips of him doing promo for this movie, talking about how it's like a dominant submissive relationship, and they're like gay bikers and stuff. And then all of the like comments were people being like, "Oh, it's a shame that Harry Melling is like the other guy," and I'm like, Harry Melling's awesome. Like I like this guy quite a bit actually. It's like this guy could act. I know that the reason why they're complaining is probably specifically just because of like looks, I'm assuming.
yeah, yeah,
Which not to say he's a bad looking guy, but conventionally I guess some people probably want to shame him for how he looks. He's a very talented actor. And so I am excited for this, and I think it sounds cool. And so that's the last one I had written down. Are there any movies I didn't name that you wanted to bring up?
yeah.
Scarlett Johansson had a debut that apparently was not received very
Yeah, I don't
well.
care about
But
that. The Life of Thelma or whatever, or
yeah, The Life of
no,
Thelma. I don't think that's the name of the movie at
something like
all.
that. Uh, yeah, no, the biggest movie that you didn't mention, I think, is God, how do you say this? Magellan, the Lav
Oh,
Diaz
sure.
movie.
Yeah, I guess the reason why I didn't mention this one is because I was mostly looking at movies like in competition and stuff, and
Yeah.
I just missed it. But
Um,
um,
but it
but
is
I should
not
have
in
mentioned this
competition.
one.
This
Yeah,
should have been in competition, but no,
yeah. No,
it's
I actually completely. This is a big oversight. This is probably towards the top of my list of things I'm excited
yeah,
for.
no, this movie is gonna be this honestly, it's like I'm not a betting man. This is like this might just be the best movie of the year when it comes out. We'll have to see, but it's here's the description, listener is in the 16th century. Ferdinand Magellan, a young and ambitious Portuguese navigator, rebels against the power of the King of Portugal, who doesn't support his dream of discovering the world, and persuades the Spanish monarchy to fund his bold expedition to the fabled lands of the East. And it stars Gail Garcia Bernal, and it's directed by Lav Diaz. And if you don't know who Lav Diaz is, he's one of like he's like the one of the biggest names in durational cinema, which is like just making really fucking long movies. He's kind of known for making like these long, like 600-minute, like really slow narrative films. And but this movie,
Yeah,
Magellan, is like
two
two and a
two
half hours.
hours 45 minutes
Yeah,
coming in short.
yeah,
Yeah,
coming in short. Yeah,
I mean that's literally shorter than Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning.
no, literally, yeah. Um, yeah, so
So
this movie is really interesting. I mean, the fact that it's like this like Hollywood actor and it's like kind of
yeah,
this
well,
like
Gail
yeah.
Garcia Bernal, actor who I really like, and it's funny. The one thing I wanted to mention that's so unrelated, but I saw some tweet today of someone. It was a picture of Gail Garcia Bernal and Diego Luna doing press together,
Mhm.
and they were like, "I need a challengers with the two of them," and someone quote tweeted it and was like, "You're not gonna believe this." They're literally in Y
It's
Tu Mama Tambien
Mama
together, which is
Tambien.
like way before Challengers and is essentially like boils down to the same idea. And I was like, that's very funny that they said that. Yeah, no, yeah, this Magellan movie looks awesome.
Yeah, the
I'm
shit
very
looks like
excited
yeah.
for that as well. I'll have to watch some more of his movies when I have an hour or five.
Yeah, no,
Um,
same. The only thing is like they're so long. Like
yeah,
they're
no, they are.
so
Which like I it's one of those things where it's like, and I get that people will like just be like fine time or whatever. Like it's one of those things that I complain about a lot where it's like there's these movies that I like like really want to watch that are just super long and people are like, "Oh, like if you really cared you would just watch them or whatever." And I'm like, it's very rare for someone to just have 5 hours in their day, you know? Like just food for thought. Doesn't always happen to people that you can just like sit there and do something for 5 hours without anybody bothering you and without any other responsibilities attached.
Yeah, you can
Um,
split it up though. I
you
think
can
it's
split
okay
it
to
up,
split it up.
sure. Yeah, I think and again, I should just do that more. But sometimes I just feel bad splitting up movies. I'm like, I feel like I'm just like not like, whether if you split them up with like a break in between, like if I watch 2 hours of a movie, like take a break to eat or like go to the bathroom and then watch 2 more hours, that's one thing. But it's like if I split one up and then I just like go about the rest of my day and then I jump back in, it feels like, I don't know, it feels weird. But it's not totally different than like if I'm watching a TV show per se. The difference is that it's not a TV show. So then I also feel bad. I don't know, but I should just do that more often because there are plenty of like long movies I really want to watch that I just like, don't go out of my way to watch. Um, that's a whole different conversation. Let's wrap it up there. That's
Let's wrap it
Cannes
up.
Film Festival. Uh, Next week, episode 120, we're going to be talking about what I mentioned earlier, either friendship or bring her back, or
Or
maybe both of
both,
them.
or yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's what you have to look forward to. So we'll see you later. Pew, pew, pew.